how the party has been able to fulfill its 2016 manifesto promises. So we'll delve into all these issues right here on today's show. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. You are welcome again to The Big Issue. All right, so we'll be bringing you a wrap of the special prosecutor's report on the Ejapa royalties deal, but you can be part of the conversation if you're listening to us on 97.3 Citi FM. The number is 0549-986-996. That's our WhatsApp number, 0549-986-996. You can also send us a tweet. Our handle is at Citi973 and use the hashtag #TheBigIssue. So we get to go into the issues now. The special prosecutor Martin Amidu, after an assessment of the Ejapa royalties deal, has described the transaction advisors involved in the deal, Imara Corporate Finance Limited, as a surrogate of both the Ministry of Finance and Databank Financial Services Limited. This comes after the special prosecutor completed and submitted his corruption risk assessment of the deal that was opposed by the minority in Parliament and some civil society organizations. The assessment indicated that the involvement of Imara Corporate Finance Limited of South Africa in the mandate agreement of an international business and economic transaction needing approval from Parliament under Article 1815 of the Constitution was never sought. Now, it revealed that the selection of transaction advisors disclosed a reasonable suspicion of bid rigging and corruption activity, including the potential for illicit financial flows and money laundering. Here's a flashback of events surrounding the Ejapa royalties deal.
The special prosecutor's risk assessment of the deal was necessitated by the extreme positions taken by various stakeholders right after the agreement was passed by Parliament. The Ejapa royalties deal was a special purpose vehicle created in tax haven Jersey to manage Ghana's gold royalties. The vehicle was to raise an amount between $500 million and $750 million from investors when the initial public offering on the London stock market is completed.
Instead of waiting for royalties to trickle in gradually and be dissipated, you want to front load the royalties in a manner that will enable the government gain room to invest in actual developmental infrastructure.
The minority walked out of Parliament when the Finance Committee presented its report for approval of the deal, following the use of the phrase "papano" by the Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah.
I want to encourage my good friend who just spoke. In my hometown, we say papano. Papano. I want to encourage Papano to take some time and follow the structure of this constitution.
We take strong objection to it. If you don't withdraw, we will recognize you today as minister. We will refer to you as minister. We will not do what you do.
But this was just one of the many issues raised by stakeholders who had problems with the deal. About 18 CSOs described the deal as opaque and called for broader stakeholder consultations.
To suspend the implementation of the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act until all documents relating to the establishment of the special purpose vehicle and its beneficial owners have been disclosed.
Former President John Dramani Mahama also promised to terminate the agreement when voted into power.
Why will government of Ghana mortgage our gold royalties to a private company in which we have 51% shares? Some shady individuals we don't know have taken 49% shares. On what basis did they take those shares? And they've gone to register in Jersey, an offshore tax haven.
But government, through the finance minister, attempted allaying fears of stakeholders, describing the deal as the best for Ghana.
Companies utilize their assets to our concessions and future resources as a means to invest in new exploration, new development, technology, diversification, and ultimately to reduce their cost of borrowing. We can leverage these same parties who give companies funding.
With a special prosecutor completing the assessment, the president has directed the entire deal to be sent back to Parliament for all concerns to be addressed. In addition, the selection of transaction advisors, which was not sent to Parliament for approval, is supposed to be sent to the Legislative House. The Finance Minister, however, in his response to findings by the Special Prosecutor, denied any wrongdoing in the approval of the deal.
All right, so among the responses to this particular work by the Special Prosecutor is one from the Chairman of the Finance Committee of Parliament, Mark Esibe. He described the work as sloppy, and according to him, the Special Prosecutor failed to consult the committee which worked on the agreements. Here's a report on that.
Parliament passed the Japan Royalties Agreement on 14th August 2020 to monetize Ghana's gold royalties amid controversy. On Monday, 2nd November, a corruption risk assessment conducted by the Special Prosecutor, Martin Amidu, was made public. Concerns raised by the Special Prosecutor include lack of consultation and bid rigging in the processes. President Akufo-Addo has subsequently directed that the agreement be returned to the House. Reacting to the comments, Chairman of the Finance Committee, Dr. Mark Esibe, whose committee worked on the agreement, said the Special Prosecutor's work can best be described as a sloppy job.
He came to Parliament gathering our reports and the work he's done as if he's going behind us to get some information. How nobody says in the Finance Committee meetings, okay? So who best to speak to when you want to know what has transpired at the Finance Committee? This is work that started in 2018 on the passage of the Minerals Income Investment Fund law. Subsequently, its amendment, then these agreements. These have been the committee for the better part of 2 years. And so for him to suggest that he doesn't think that the committee did a thorough job scrutinizing these, maybe he doesn't appreciate numbers. Minority Leader Harun Idrisu said the minority will not change its position on the agreement if the Minister of Finance presents the agreement back to the House.
You want to take gold revenue for the next 10, 15 years. What does that mean to the state? What does it mean to chiefs and people who earn a portion of the Mineral Development Fund? Government ministers were joking and reduced that transaction to a trifle.
So be your further call. Are you calling for it to be totally scrapped, suspended? What is your call as a minority leader?
The minority is not likely to change its position on Nigeria. We don't support it today, we don't support it tomorrow, we don't support it into the future.
But the majority leader, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, insists the minority's position is preposterous.
In cracks of Harun's intervention was that they didn't have time and that they were given only 4 hours, which he knows between him and his God was a palpable untruth. On 2 days at least, we had to tarry because he was going up north. And he pleaded with me that we should hold on until he returned. And we did so. So for him to say that we had only 4 hours, to me, I think Parliament doesn't work that way. Playing to the gallery that way doesn't help anybody. Let's respond to truth. Is it true that Parliament was given only 4 days? That certainly is a palpable untruth. We had more than 4 days to work on this. That doesn't mean that whatever parliament or any parliament anywhere in the world does is sacrosanct.
MP for Jirapa, Dr. Francis Dakura, who also commented on the raging issue, maintained that the agreement is not in the best interest of the country.
If they had allowed a free debate, they would have picked even from their side, because in a debate you are pushed so that your counter push will let better ideas come out. Then they could have fine-tuned this whole Ajapatin, and they could have avoided the embarrassment that it's put them through. But because of party line, partisan line and all that, people who could have helped in a very objective debate, even for the NPP side, failed to do it and wouldn't do it because they don't want to fall victim and perhaps get victimized. So it ended up a good, perhaps, proposition ended up being a very bad dose. And that is what we have.
On the floor of the House, members approved the request for a sovereign bond of up to $5 billion as contained in the budget for the first quarter of...
Right. I mentioned earlier about how that report from the Special Prosecutor had a component on the Airbus bribery scandal. Now, it made mention of NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama, and he, within the week, also commented on the issue, and he says that President Akufo-Addo should order a complete withdrawal of the Ejapa royalties deal and also dismiss Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. According to him, the damning reports by the special prosecutor does not augur well for the finance minister and dents the reputation of his government if he fails to relieve him of his job.
For review, I think it should be withdrawn completely, and there's no hurry to bring it back. I mean, a whole new look should be taken about what we want to do with our gold royalties, and then consensus built around it before any such agreement is brought to Parliament. But the point is, if such serious accusations are being made against an important person like the finance minister, one would have thought that he would act evenly in terms of the trial report and the PPA chief executive and the OSP's report and the Ejapa deal and the finance minister. And so he would have either asked the finance minister to step aside or, suspend him or sack him, after receiving the report.
All right, so that's former President John Mahama's take on the Ejapa royalties deal and the assessment carried out by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. My guests this morning are Inusa Fuseni, ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. Alexander Aban is a member of the Constitutional, Legal and Affairs, also the same committee, and is also MP for Gomoa West. And Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa. I'm going to bring you some portions of the president's statements when he received that report from the special prosecutor on the Ejapa royalties deal. This was issued on the 2nd of November 2020, and it says the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has received the report of the special prosecutor on the risk of corruption and anti-corruption assessment in relation to the gold royalties monetization transaction under the Minerals Income Investment Act 2018, Act 978, in which the finance minister was copied. He also asked the minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, for his comments, which were contained in a confidential memorandum to the president, in which the president has authorized it to be made public to contribute to the national discourse on the matter. Now, the president commends special prosecutor for exercising his discretion in this regard in undertaking this exercise and considers it an important step in enhancing the principles of good governance in the country. Now, inasmuch as the report by the special prosecutor makes no specific recommendations, as according to the report, assessment does not constitute an investigation, the report makes a fundamental observation that, quotes, this is the first time an independent anti-corruption agency established by any government in Ghana has undertaken an analysis of risk of corruption and anti-corruption risk assessment of the processes leading up to the approval by Parliament of public agreements as part of its statutory mandate, unquote. Now, the president thus welcomes this novelty of institutionalizing the risk of corruption and anti-corruption risk assessment and wholly welcomes it as an important preventive weapon in the fight against corruption in Ghana. President Akufo-Addo has also studied the report and the comments from the Minister of Finance. Based on the observations, the president has accordingly instructed the minister that, in the interest of transparency and accountability to the Ghanaian people, the agreements supporting the transaction that were submitted to Parliament and approved by the House should be resubmitted to Parliament for the approval process to start all over again. This, he believes, will help address the concerns raised principally by the minority about having been given very limited time to subject properly the various agreements to proper scrutiny. The transaction documents to be resubmitted are the relationship agreements, the assignment agreements, the allocation agreements, and the investment agreement. And that is the statement from Director of Communications at the Presidency, Eugene Ahim. It goes on to say that in line with the observations of the Special Prosecutor, President Akufo-Addo has directed that the procurement of the services of transaction advisors should be reviewed by the Ministry of Finance and the Attorney General with the aim of taking all steps that may be necessary to remove any doubts about the integrity of the process. Additionally, it is the expectation of the President that the Ministry of Finance and the Minerals Income Investment Fund and the transaction advisors will use this opportunity to also amend the relevant agreements to take into account the useful feedback received during the series of stakeholder consultations over the last 2 months. Furthermore, issues surrounding the value of the proposed Ejapa listing should be properly addressed in order to engender greater public confidence. The President would like to affirm his confidence in the Finance Minister, Ministry of Finance, and the board and the management of the Minerals Income Investment Fund. And he reiterates his full support and that of his cabinet for the transaction, which he believes ultimately is an innovative addition to the framework of efforts his government to enhance significantly the value that Ghana has historically derived from her rich natural resources. And I'm reading just the concluding paragraph of this statement. It quotes another portion of the report by the special prosecutor, but the concluding part says, in this light, President Akufo-Addo wonders whether in the current understandably highly charged political atmosphere in the country, debate on the matter should take place before the elections. It is his view that the national interest would be better served for the parliamentary proceedings on this matter to take place either after the elections or in the next parliament, and there would be a greater chance of achieving a national consensus on this important issue. So that's the statement issued by the presidency after receiving that corruption and anti-corruption risk assessment report from the Office of the Special Prosecutor on the Ejapa royalties deal. The program is The Big Issue. We are live on Citi 97.3 FM. We are beginning our conversation with the reports by the OSP on the Ejapa royalties deal. Honorable Abdullahi Inusa Abdullahi Bistav Husseini has joined us in the studio. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning. Thank you for mentioning the full complement of my name.
Yes, it's very important.
Yes.
Abdullahi Bistav Husseini.
Yes. Yes.
Good to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you.
I see you have the report in front of you.
Yes.
It's a bulky document.
This is like the New Testament.
And you've been going all through it.
I mean, you have to read it several times and understand, digest, try to find the connections and nexus, whether the Ejapa deal agreement is can be redeemed at all, or is irretrievably bad. And so you need to always look at the agreement and portions of the agreement, portions of the report, and put that against the agreement and what have been uncovered. Also against the Public Financial Management Act, all the relevant laws of this country, the Mineral Development Act, the Mineral Income and Investment Fund Act, and many other, the Public Procurement Authority Act. So you need to look at the whole government, even provisions of the Constitution of Ghana. So, in fact, that is why one should, if you have not yet had a copy of that, just grab a copy for yourself, read. But don't just stop with that, because that's a report. That's a report that deals with a minute aspect of the whole transaction. Okay. And that minute aspect has to do with an analysis of corruption and corruption risk assessment. Okay. That's all that this report does. Yes.
Okay. Franklin has also joined us via Zoom. Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa. Good morning, Franklin. Okay, so that's Franklin right there. But let me begin with you, Honorable. So in studying this risk of corruption and anti-corruption analysis that the OSP made on the Ejapa royalties deal, what will be your overall assessment of his work in this regard?
Well, dear Nyamekye, Mrs. Nyamekye, What was the name?
Abena.
Abena. Abena, we have to roll back. Because in the Bible there is a proverb that if you hit your leg against an object and fall, to appreciate the object that you have hit your leg against or you have stumbled upon, you need to go back to where you stumbled, not where you fell.
Okay.
That's where you understand the cause of your fall. So we have to go back. Now you recall that these agreements, or the 4 documents that evidence the agreement, were submitted to Parliament, were laid before Parliament, actually not submitted, because I don't know when they were submitted, but they were laid in Parliament on the 13th day of August 2020 and referred to the Finance Committee for report, custody and report, consistent with the standing orders of the Constitution. At the Finance Committee meeting, the Finance Committee members, including some members of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, raised issue on this network, sitting and discussing together with the Executive Secretary of the Dankwa Institute, and raised a number of issues, including the constitutional issue of whether or not the ratification of the agreement on the 14th day of August 2020 was proper and founded in law. Why? And to my mind, on that day, on this network, I had said that was the most important issue to overcome before even looking at the other remaining issues. Why? I mean, you know that you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It will fall. Now, we had passed the Mineral Income and Investment Fund Act. And in that act, we had the fund managers had contemplated, or the promoters of the bill had contemplated the establishment of a special purpose vehicle for the purposes of engaging with investors in the implementation of the objectives of the fund. Now, that fund was to be an instrument, that SPV was to be an instrument, a vehicle for the purposes of achieving the objects of it. It was to belong solely, entirely, and exclusively to the fund. When the bill was passed, and the bill was introduced in Parliament in 2018, Act 720, that is the act. Now, in 2020, the minister came back to Parliament and told Parliament that the nature of the transactions they were about to enter into required that the SPV contemplated under the Minerals Income and Investment Fund Act ought to be operationally independent, no longer a mistletoe. You know a mistletoe? A tree growing on top of another tree. No longer a mistletoe. Must have a life of its own. Means the SPV must have legal capacity independent of the fund to engage in transactions. And that the investors thought that was in accord with good governance. We argued, the minister was able to convince us, we were persuaded, we amended the Mineral Income and Investment Act. Parliament amended it. The Mineral Income and Investment Act, as amended, as at 14th day of August 2020, had not received presidential assent. Had not received presidential assent. And if you have the law, just stand back and see the date of Gazette. Mineral Income and Investment Fund Act as amended. You just see the date it was gazetted, 27th something, October or something like that. Now, so when the Finance Committee brought its report to Parliament and purported to be rectifying the transaction documents on the basis of the amended provisions, which had not yet gotten presidential assent, I remember I stood up in Parliament. Ajapan Mesa was the one debating. and arrested the proceedings. I said, we're doing something fundamentally unconstitutional. Because we can't act with impunity. The Parliament, even though lawmaking, exercises its lawmaking powers within the parameters of the Constitution. You don't have unfettered powers. And Article 106 is clear. A law is a bill passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. That's when a law becomes a law. If you amend a law or pass a law in Parliament and it is not yet assented to, you have no speculative jurisdiction as Parliament to think that the President will assent to it. So you can't take a decision in the interim on that particular matter. Speaker dismissed me. Joseph Osei dismissed me. He said we were Parliament, we could do what? Because you see, Abena, that is what pains me. Most members of Parliament are people who have distinguished themselves in their various fields of endeavor. They are lawyers, they are accountants, they are doctors, individually accomplished persons. What was it that they couldn't see that was pushing them to engage in that gargantuan illegality? In fact, when the Speaker overruled me, I left Parliament before the minority. I said that I was not prepared to be part of that unconstitutionality.
So you led the boycott?
No, I just left. I just said I won't be part of this unconstitutionality, and I left. I didn't sit down even to listen to the merits of the argument. I didn't. Because it's clear. Today, the Special Prosecutor says the same thing. And I said in Parliament, if you intend to really proceed with the Ajepa deal, why, and that was the last day of sitting, why don't you let us go? Wait until the President assents. One day you call us back, and then we'll rectify the agreement. Then you would have satisfied the constitutional basis for what you were doing. Parliamentary majority, overwhelming parliamentary majority in the political party leads the political party to engage in impunity. You know what they did? They passed a resolution and made the resolution subject to ratification of the President. Then I asked, the next day when I met the chairman of the Finance Committee, I asked him, so what you did? What is his basis in law? He said, but we subjected it to the ratification. I asked him simply, does Parliament have speculative jurisdiction? Does Parliament, the Parliament that you sit in, does it have speculative jurisdiction? Are you saying that the President will sign it? What evidence or what facts do you have that shows that the President will sign it? I told him, look, when the criminal code then, now Criminal and Other Offences Act was amended to provide for violence against a woman in a domestic setting. We had put in place having sexual engagement with a woman without her consent as rape. It was called, outside there it was called domestic rape. Marital rape. Marital rape. We passed it. It went to President Kufuor. President Kufuor said he won't sign it. So if you had taken a decision on that without the assent of, the bill came back. President Kufuor said he won't sign the bill. He referred it to the Council of State and said he won't sign the bill in the way it was. We had to change it. And I had the distinct privilege of proposing the formulation in the law that met the acceptance of Kufuor. So they refused. Now, that is it. Parliamentary majority, when we walked out, they didn't need us. 169, they don't need 106.
Well, a member of the majority has joined us, Honorable Alexander Aban, Kubwa West MP. He's also on that committee.
Well, actually, when he left
you're welcome, sir. Let's welcome him.
Welcome. Well, he's my friend. When he left the Committee on Constitutional Legal, he was the vice chairman. And these matters, I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, that on the committee, on matters that were legal and constitutional, Aban will, even if he would disagree, persuasively. Nobody could stand in the way. Even if you disagree and not speak on the House, you disagree. But I mean, if you agree with you and say, "Me, I won't contribute," but we just lost the opportunity.
Don't you think the time has come where our individual votes should be recorded?
That's what I mean. That you see, I didn't say it for him. That's what I mean. And I've known him. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's not training to be a priest.
Is that the case? Because the work Parliament did on this deal, and reading through Martin Amidu's report, it says there's reasonable suspicion of bid rigging, potential corruption activity, illicit financial flows, a number of things. Is it that the majority, because you had the numbers, decided to pass it through because they had to go?
Thank you very much, and good morning to our cherished viewers and listeners. Good morning to my very good friend.
Good morning.
You gave me some compliments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning to the people of Gilmore West.
Okay.
Let me start with a confession.
Okay.
The confession being that I've not had the time to read that bulky document. Yes. So it's snippets of information from media outlets that I'm relying on. We should not start this discussion on a condemnatory note, if I should put it that way. Right? We must look at the good, the bad, and probably the ugly about it. Right? The good part of it is that at least we have a government that decides to subject itself, even before actual transactions are made, which may lead to some losses, right? To subject itself to the scrutiny of the special prosecutor, right? To prevent the occurrence of losses, which we may later have to say, oh, Yehunianje.
But that was after the numerous petitions by the CSOs, the National House of Chiefs, talking
it's
about
part
it.
of the play of democracy.
Okay.
You understand? He was talking about overwhelming. In fact, I intentionally wrote that overwhelming parliamentary majority may lead to impunity.
Yeah.
It may not necessarily lead to that. But if we want Parliament to assert itself, we must look at our constitutional structure again.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed.
You understand? We must look at our constitutional structure again. And the fact that majority of ministers must be drawn from Parliament. Of course, it has a historical basis.
Yeah.
But I think that it has now become anachronistic. And those historical bases must be left to just sleep quietly in their grave. They must not be allowed to rise or resurrect occasionally from the grave to come and upset the free flow of modern way of doing things in a democracy. Right? Let me also make a confession here, not on my own singular behalf, but on behalf of Parliament, that most often we are not able to even get enough time to scrutinize documents. He sits here, and I don't think what I'm saying is far from the truth. Right? And so if at the committee level we are unable to get committee members to put in their maximum in scrutinizing documents that are placed before them, we may be led blindly, if I should put it that way, by the committee, because we rely on the committees. When Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee goes to examine maybe some piece of legislation or any bill or anything of that nature, or any agreement, we bring it to Parliament, and at the plenary we may not subject it to the same level of scrutiny as would have been done by the relevant committee. So it is very necessary that we strengthen the committee system.
But
and it is very necessary that I will go into the...
Yeah,
yes.
Before you go into that, the people who voted you, your constituents, they trust that you do this work on their behalf. But what we are seeing, and based on what you just said, it means our MPs just rubber stamp these agreements and deals due to lack of time. They don't scrutinize it.
Not necessarily. The confession that I made was not to state that we just rubber stamp anything.
But that is how many people feel.
I told you that because of reliance on committees, right? The thinking has always been that, oh, once the committee has brought it, it must be good, because they have been given everything and they would look at pages from cover to cover, right? So,
so in this case, the finance committee led the House astray?
Oh, I wouldn't say that they led the House astray. But you see, in his own submission, he told us how the House was convinced by the representations made by the finance minister, right? Now this was to do a preemptive check of whether the deal as structured holds any potential of conflict of interests, of corruption, or anything of, in that nature. You understand? Now, we have another chance, or to take a bite on the cherry, to see whether this time round, all the ifs and the buts, all the dots and the crossings have been dealt with. Okay? If in the wisdom of Parliament we think that it's a bad deal, why not? We'll jettison it. Right? So we should not look at it from only a gloomy point of view that, oh, but for the intervention of CSOs and all other people who made noise about it, this deal would have gone and somebody would have been unjustly enriched. Because we must look at the history.
Okay.
You realize that even during the NDC time, they also felt that there was something, or there was wisdom in trying to, if I say, securitize our untapped mineral resource, get money now, and use it for development, right?
Okay.
So we should look at it from that holistic point of view. Regarding his constitutional issue that he raised.
I will be getting there. We'll be getting there. Franklin is also on Zoom with us. Franklin, just last week we were talking about the work of Shraj vis-a-vis the special prosecutor and the work he does. And he brought out this report, a comprehensive one at that, on the Ejapa royalties deal. Does it give you a mark for him? And also, what do you make of this work that he did?
Well, good morning again to my good friends in the studio and those listening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, well, fine. Let me just say that since, was it during the Rollins era, when we had the Shraj actually bearing its teeth and living according to its terms and, if you like, the terms of reference given to it, when it was boldly, fiercely bold, and managed to get a few ministers to actually squirm. And I think also during the Kufuor era, a Shraj commissioner also did a yeoman's job, and a few ministers had to be questioned and reassigned. I think it's been long coming, and I think we found in Mr. Vital a very consummate professional. I mean, if you read his rulings, even on the Ken Bond saga, and now this one, you tend to see professionalism at its peak. So kudos to him. And indeed, it's true that we were wondering whether the special prosecutor was going to live up to that type of, those high standards. Little did we know that he was actually waiting in the saddle, waiting in the wings in order to do what has now become one of his seminal works. So kudos to both gentlemen. But I've got to start off this conversation on the point, or on the tangent of one of sadness and shame at the same time. Sadness because, we never tire in this country to have a lot of consultative conversations about almost everything. And I did tell you some time ago that when we struck oil, we decided to go to every nook and cranny of this country to tell people who will never see the oil that they stand to benefit, because this was a resource that was held in trust for them. And if we did that, it only made a lot of sense to have the similar approach to the royalties and or the gold transaction under question, precisely because we've had this before. You recall during the Rawlings era, when the golden share in Ashanti had to be sold, there were all manner of victories, and I think Rawlings sometimes did not take kindly to the fact that a decision was made. Maybe he was proven right. We were supposed to be generating $150 million a year from that particular deal. The moment we sold that golden share, we are now back to about $50 million a year as we speak. So there was every opportunity, examples, learnings, for us not to go the path that this Japan deal went. And I was a bit saddened again because I see in my good friends Ken and Charles Dubois people who are technically competent and are quite interested in consultations. I mean, I've lost count of the number of times the finance minister would ensure that some people are at the table, whether before pre-budget meetings and all of that. And it's done that. And I see that to be a mark of a leader who wants to consult, even if they are technically competent. So I was shocked when this came out after almost 2 years, when we never heard anything until the minority spoke about this deal. It leads me to a few things. During the Mahama era, we saw some of the decisions that were made on high-value projects. Not even that, even before Mahama, before and even Mills. We had all these challenges with XTS, the compact railway project under Kufuor, and all kinds of projects, XTS, 3 billion Chinese loan. And we suggested to the governments at the time that, look, it's about time we instituted at least some form of assessor generals of all high-ticket, huge-ticket, should I say, high-impact projects that are monumental in nature in terms of their finance and in terms of their outlook.
Okay.
And we thought that once you did that, you would then be able to salvage some of maybe the challenges that has dogged us at the party. And I've got to say that the committee in Parliament, Financial Committee, did a thoroughly shoddy job. My good friend Sibe Yeboah and his people did not serve the country well at all. And I'm surprised he's taking a swipe at the special prosecutor for they not doing basic valuation analysis properly. I mean, I was shocked to learn that, and Honorable Nisa knows, I mean, as a land economy student, we study net present values, we do financial mathematics, and these things are basic. Now, the moment nobody was giving you any indicator, any assessment, any serious analysis, any net present value analysis of what was supposed to be enjoyed into perpetuity, or even 25 years or 15 years as was amended in the Japan deal, then you begin to question the whole basis of arriving at the valuation figure of $1 billion. So I think right from that onset, the finance committee, I don't know what they were using, what metrics they were using to get the deal, but it was a thoroughly shoddy job. It's either they decided to be sleepy on the job, or they decided just not to pay attention to the basic valuation mathematics. And you see, that worried a lot of us. Let me tell you, there's something else I'd like to say. Most of what the special prosecutor found, most civil society actors, and including Imani, had already raised them. In fact, in our second paper that we wrote, why the CSO supposed to Japan, we highlighted most of the issues around conflict of interest, the manner in which some of the directors were chosen and what have you. Just like we fell short of describing them in the very serious words the special prosecutor used. And so my conclusions, my initial conclusions on this particular conversation is that, you see, we could have avoided this shame. And as it is now, nobody would touch this deal in London, because once the special prosecutor of a country has written those words about a particular deal that was supposed to be listed on no less an important bears like the London Stock Exchange, then clearly speaking, people will be worried, because the issues around insider trading is one of the things he didn't mention, but that's what comes up clearly to me. And the stock exchanges have been accused of those kinds of untoward behavior. So I think it's entered the deal quite badly. I think the call on the finance minister to resign is not necessarily proper. I'd rather that they recuse themselves from the deal. He, together with Charles Edubwai, should recuse themselves from the deal. The president has enough other competent men to put together the deal, and then they can then be approached at the later stages after a widely consultative conversation, so that we can have a proper deal. But you see, you can't cure conflict of interest. Did he also use nepotism?
Yes.
Nepotism. You can't cure nepotism, conflict of interest, insider trade dealing in Parliament. Those ones can only be cured by people who were involved in the deal stepping aside. I think those are the normal conduct of what they call it, how things are done. But I won't call them. I won't say they should resign. They are very competent heads, and maybe they were overtaken by the patriotic act of trying to maximize capitalist valuation of our assets. We disagree on the methods. We think that it was important for us to have a widely consultative conversation about this. So these are my initial points.
You say that you disagree with calls for the finance minister to be dismissed or even suspended. But people say that in talking about conflict of interest, we saw that of the PPA boss, and he has been handed a sack.
Well, I mean, first of all, yes, there was a conflict of interest. It was established that he made direct benefits, right? Into his account. He didn't explain certain wealth he had come into. And so the Shroud Commissioner drew allusions, and anybody reading that report would have obviously come to the conclusion that he benefited directly from his deals. It's not been established that the Ken and Charles are going to benefit directly from the deal. Some people can make vested interest analysis. I mean, there are things I know that I may conclude and say, oh, okay, I think because Charles worked with JP Morgan and JP Morgan is part of this deal, and somehow when Charles leaves office, he's going to benefit from this deal. But I cannot make those conclusions because I can only conjecture, but those are not criminal in nature, right?
Okay.
And so for me, I don't want to use the yardsticks, but they've not shown they are going to directly benefit. That's why I said they should recuse themselves from the deal going forward, because of the harsh words that the special prosecutor had used to describe their involvement in the deal.
Okay, let me return to the studio. I still have Honorable Inisa and Honorable Aban with me. Honorable Aban, before we went to Franklin, you were talking about the constitutional aspect.
Yes, my friend made the issue of speculative jurisdiction. In fact, I have looked at the lawmaking process, and we ask ourselves, when does a law become a law? And if indeed a law becomes a law when it has received presidential assent, then probably we rush too much in making the amendment in the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act. Because you see, as we sit here, we would also leave the scene for later generations to assess our work. And one example that I always use is the Re-Akoto case, where the judges who sat on that case, if I should put it, are all seen, as far as that case is concerned, in the light of timorous souls, as people who were timorous souls, right? Probably the 31st December case, you may also talk about the minority in that case, right, as probably falling into a similar category of description. It is difficult, but this has been Alex Aban the way I always want to be. I think that with all the things that are even coming out now, probably if we had allowed the president to assent the act, then we say that it's a law. So then we amend the law. I think we had a discussion that time, the two of us. All I told him was that I was not going to contribute. But we are charting a path for democracy, and I believe that wherever it is, whether they are in government or we are in government, we must try as much as possible to make sure that in doing things like that, we are not swayed too much by our partisan considerations. Maybe I will just put it this way.
Is it difficult to veer off from the position of your group, that's the majority in Parliament, when you are, say, talking about the Ejapa deal and there are things you are seeing you don't agree with?
To be honest with you, the Ejapa deal, I did not scrutinize it seriously. I was looking at the lawmaking process, the procedure of making it, and I thought my friend's position was quite founded in law, right? This is a lesson for all of us as we grow, right? So that's me. And
okay.
Maybe I should stop it here.
You can. When you ask him that question, he cannot answer.
But can you
I
answer?
Be able to answer. You know why he can answer.
When you were in the majority,
I will also answer it. You see why? He said it. It's the governance architecture that is creating all this problem. That has somehow subordinated Parliament to the executive. That anybody who comes into Parliament, and I know him, and it's not that I'm patronizing him, I know him. I didn't know him before Parliament, but he's been my vice chairman. And I know his approach to lawmaking and procedure. I know. What happens is that we've gotten to where we are because of an experience, a single experience in 1979. When Liman and his PMP government, which was controlling Parliament then, presented a budget to Parliament for the funding of government policies and programs, then that budget was rejected in Parliament. You see, the party had majority in Parliament. The government of the majority party in Parliament presented a budget, and the budget was rejected. government did not last its full term. But that was an important learning curve. But because the government did not go full term and would not build upon that experience, one would have wanted to know how did they overcome it? What are the what are the lessons that we can learn from that? Because government is all about consensus building and negotiation. That's all about governance. But because we never, so when we were given another opportunity, or when we had another opportunity to write onto ourselves a constitution, we decided to address that 1979 occurrence, single occurrence, by this terrible arrangement in Parliament. In the Constitution. So, and people, he see, I don't know how many contested him in his primaries. People contesting primaries in your constituencies principally are motivated by the fact that when he gets to Parliament, there's a likelihood of he becoming a minister. So that destabilizes even the parliamentary democracy, the system that we are running. That destabilizes it. Secondly, Abban cannot speak. He told me he won't contribute in Parliament. I didn't want to say he told me. I said he didn't talk. But
Franklin, you want to come in here?
No, not at all.
Okay, we thought we heard you speak.
You see? But how could he contribute? His one leg is standing where? In the executive. His other leg is standing in Parliament. He has a responsibility to his constituents to hold government accountable. But who is the government here? He is part of it.
So that is what happens to all you politicians.
So you become conflicted. You don't know what to talk. So even your good friend, your colleague, when he was given opportunity to talk, he rather trivialized the issue because he couldn't talk. He trivialized the debate.
You think that's what he did? Because he didn't have an opinion?
He had an opinion, but he had to trivialize it. Because you see,
then you are not serving our interests.
This is a structure. That's what I've said.
Who is not serving the interests?
As a parliamentarian.
No, that is why I say it, and I will repeat it here. That's why I've been so disappointed in Nana Akufo-Addo. When he came into office, and he's a fine constitutional lawyer, human rights advocate, and he knows this problem. He knows. And so the government of J.E. Mills had sponsored a constitutional review commission, established a constitutional review commission to review the constitution, to move it from a political constitution to a development constitution. Our constitution was for stability, to stabilize this country. We were moving from a military dictatorship. So we concentrated too much power in the executive. You can't have development that way. Now, you came into office. At least, if you wouldn't do anything at all, I meant that requirement that says that a majority of ministers must come from Parliament. But he didn't do that. He not only took a majority from Parliament, a majority of ministers as described as ministers in Parliament who count towards the number, but he took more than necessary from Parliament. More than necessary from Parliament. And so, just weakened Parliament.
You think the president's appointments weaken Parliament?
It weakened Parliament. It contributed to weakening Parliament.
But every president appoints majority from Parliament.
I don't think so.
The last time I counted from his ministers from Parliament, I got more than 60.
You see,
more than 60 from Parliament. So if you even are going to pass law, now that we are outside campaigning, go to Parliament and see. At any sitting, you visit Parliament one day and see. At any sitting, will we have 60 members in Parliament? It takes 60.
I don't think the president is to blame for that. Let me take a quick break.
I disagree with you on that. When we come back,
gentlemen, yes. This is a big issue on Citi 97.3 FM. We are talking about the Japa royalties deal. We'll be back and then we'll continue the conversation. Don't go away. Welcome back to The Big Issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. I'm here with Honorable Inusa Hussaini, Tamale Central MP, Honorable Alexander Aban, Gumwa West Member of Parliament, Franklin Kujo, President of Imani Africa, is also with us via Zoom. Honorable Aban, you were talking about his comments that the appointments sort of weakened Parliament, and that's why we are having this issue at hand.
You see, that may be the effect, but it's not as though the president decided that, okay, let me weaken Parliament. You see, once he has created the various ministries, and there was a need for ministerial positions to be made, I know that if he chose people from outside, they would come, and the criticism will still come from you again. Oh, you see, you have to pay them, right, as ministers. But now, if he selects MPs to be ministers, right,
and deputy ministers,
they are not going to be paid. Of course, they will be paid as ministers, but they will not be paid as MPs.
Yes,
you understand?
Yes.
So it's just some little differential, right? So in that case, some way somehow, the public purse is protected. You understand? That should be the reason. It's not as though the president will decide that, let me just weaken Parliament. That's why I said that it may be the effect. No, you said you are disappointed in him. You started from a point. Those were your words that you are disappointed in him.
Yes,
I'm disappointed. Because he
decapitated Parliament.
Good. So if you say it that way, so you are trying to impute an intention to him that he decided deliberately to weaken Parliament by the appointment of so many of his ministers from Parliament. And I'm saying that no, that is dictated by his desire to reduce government costs. That's the whole thing.
But that's a deliberative action.
Let's return to the main meat. Yes. The issue of conflict of interest.
Yes.
Honorable Minister, I see you going through that document.
Yes.
It comes up. In fact, there's a part that in mentioning the Deputy Minister, Charles Dubois. I'm just going to read a line in the report. The Special Prosecutor says a deeper analysis of the risk of corruption and anti-corruption assessment of the mandate agreement arising from, he calls it stonewalling by the Deputy Finance Minister, led to the discovery that Charles Dubois, who appeared from the analysis of risk of corruption and anti-corruption assessment to have been the overseeing Deputy Minister for this procurement processes for the transaction advisors, purportedly signed the mandate agreement for and on behalf of the Republic of Ghana, knew or ought to have known that he could not commit the Republic into any legal contracts, let alone sign the mandate agreement in the name of the Republic.
So you just said, look, when they, in all these transactions, this is an attempt by the people handling the transactions to limit involvement to themselves only. That's why he uses the word stonewalling. Because by the Public Financial Management Act, the spending officer of any or every ministry, department or agency is the chief director. So it is the chief director who can commit. So you are going to engage transaction advisors. So you're going to sign the mandate form. And the transaction advisors will have to pay for the budget of the Ministry of Finance. And he has no knowledge from the signing of the transaction advisor. The mandate form. And so that's why he says that this was obviously in conflict with the Public Financial Management Act. He's made that point in the report. Now, I initially referred to the constitutional letter of the matter. that one, we shouldn't argue about it, because when you look at and when I raised the point in Parliament, I decided following when the president will execute will sign the assent to the bill, and he did so later or not even in September, in October. So clearly, and Franklin Kujo is right. When we raised the issue, we knew that no foreign investor will put his money there, because they follow. They would have seen that there was I wanted to say egregious, but
egregious.
Yes, but it was a fundamental omission. fundamental. And so, but here, look at the laws. This is not innovative. Let's first of all put it on record that the idea of securitizing our royalties is not new. And every day we ask, you know how we build the International Conference Center? We have to securitize cocoa. The cocoa government buys every year. We said, look, China, give us money. For X number of years, we will give you cocoa. And they agreed. You know how we built the Atuabu gas plant? We have to securitize the oil. So we'll give you a quantity of the oil. You know the Hydro deal?
Yeah.
We have to securitize the diamond, which is still underground. So it is not new. It is not new. In 2011, and even me as Minister for Roads and Highways, to be able to do all the roads, I had to securitize. The GET Fund had to securitize road fund collections. So we get money in advance to pay contractors who were executing the work and not waiting for every month money to flow in to come. So it's not new. It's not a new thing. Now, so we all agreed. 2011, the NDC government considered the issue of securitizing our royalties. The then Attorney General advised that we needed to reconcile aspects of the provisions of the Constitution. The Mineral Development Act, which was dividing some of the royalties. The Stolen Act. The role of the Minerals Commission, because in the Constitution, the Minerals Commission is to regulate and monitor the utilization. So what does it mean when you start taking the royalties? Are you infringing on the constitutional duty of the Minerals Commission? So you have to reconcile all these laws. So the Attorney General advised. At that time, we thought that reconciling all the laws to come out clearly was quite dangerous and difficult. So we abandoned the idea. So it's not new. Now, so nobody is quibbling on the project, but it's the processes. And he knows in law, rule of law is as important to obeying or complying to substantive law as complying to procedure. Okay? If the law says you can do this, the law then tells you how to do it. So you must comply with the procedure. Transaction advisor. The minority, when we went to the committee meeting, you had said you had retained Imara. Where was the PPA authorization?
On that.
On that. Provided. They couldn't. They couldn't. Now, and I know why they couldn't. Because I was in another program with a member of parliament, and he produced a PPA approval, which was given onto the first day of November 2017. It could not be the PPA agreement. And even the minister, response to the president, he talks about that. In 2017, November, the Minerals Income and Investment Fund Act had not come into existence. So how could you be engaging Imara for the purposes of handling the placement of the royalties? How could you be? Because they had not come. There was no act like the Minerals Income and Investment Fund Act. And you can look at the response, I think response 4 or 5. He's talking about Imara and the... So that is one. We said we needed that document. We asked about timing.
Okay. The one that says on the 22nd of December 2017, the Ministry of Finance invited the firms directly, those who requested the proposal.
No, before that, that is... So when they got the approval, they said they got the approval, and on the 22nd day of December 2017, they invited the firms.
Yes.
The approval
and they
was
shortlisted Imara and Morgan Stanley out of the 8.
Out of the 8. Good. 2017. So you had Franklin inside dealing.
Honorable Aban, the NDC flag bearer John Mahama and the Progressive People's Party. And some other people also think the finance minister is the person to take the ultimate blame and that the president should take action against him. What do you make of that?
Thank you very much. I think that call is misconceived. Misconceived in the sense that this matter could be distinguishable from the PPA boss matter, because I know that those who want to cause mischief would quickly come and say, oh, you know what, because the PPA man is somewhere else or from somewhere, he has been given the sack, and that because the president is somehow related to the finance minister, he's being shielded. So I want to actually take the wind out of the sail of those who are likely to bandy that argument around, or that kind of around. You see, in this matter, I mean, various transactions have been made. The deal has been structured in a certain manner. People have raised issue about it, right? If by the report of the special prosecutor, there is the likelihood of a conflict of interest, I don't think the response to that is just to relieve the person of his position. The question would be, and this my friend knows very well, we are talking about law. The question would be that what loss have we suffered as a result of maybe his conflict of interest position, right? Now, all this report, the essence of it is to prevent it from occurring, right? And so if those preventive measures have been taken, and the president in his wisdom has directed that, you know what, take this back to Parliament for proper scrutiny and all that, it does not necessarily also mean that the president must sit there and just give a verdict. It's a bad deal. So don't, because there are some people who are even thinking that the president's directive that the deal should be brought back to Parliament is also out of place, because they think that the president should have just gone ahead to say that, no, it's a bad deal, just drop it. No. There is the need, especially with the history that he himself has acknowledged, as what he did in 2011, that, look, is there any wisdom at all in getting money now for development, and then the various streams of income that would be generated from the utilization of these mineral resources, we can use it to be paying? There's wisdom in that. Is there a way of saving it in such a way that we derive the right benefit from it without necessarily putting anybody in a place of conflict of interest? Is there a way that we can go about it in such a way that somebody is not unjustly enriched? Once you take away all these kind of things, is there any wisdom in it? Yes, which the minority does not dispute, right? So that being the case, I think the call to bring it back to Parliament is in the right place, and the call for the finance minister to be given the sack, I think it is premature.
Okay, Franklin, you described the work of the finance committee as shoddy. In the president directing that the documents should be resent to Parliament for scrutiny, can we trust that same committee to work on it?
No.
Why not? Why not? Because we will work on it. There's a statutory committee, please.
When I say no, I actually mean that probably the leadership has to change. You see, the challenge is that every committee has a leader, and there's a leadership at the committee level. My reading of what had happened is that they are probably too overbearing on the other members of the committee. And because I can only get to that conclusion because my good friend Citi TV is still sticking to his guns that they did a yeoman's job after the bill, after the whole deal started. within their domain for almost 18 months. And the special prosecutor just collected what they've done and then passed judgments.
Yeah, he said he was never called.
Yeah, but who called you? Because you see, they are using your own conclusion that you arrived at as seen in the agreement, right? That's what is done. I mean, to call you and all of that, it's not as if he was engaging in some special investigations because to establish it or something like that. He was relying on report. He asked for your report, which means that he wanted to know the processes you took in arriving at your conclusion. And because it's not a special investigation to establish wrongdoing, he doesn't need to call you. And especially when actually spoken and said that you believe in the work you've done. And I'm just sitting as a layperson who did financial mathematics, basic mathematics, and saying that the valuation you didn't provide any basis for arriving at the 1 billion. It's as elementary as that. I don't see how anybody else would believe that the committee's leadership would be interested in reversing what they've done. Well, I can understand that by the speakers of the architecture of parliament, it goes back to the same committee. Of course, it has to go back to the same committee. And maybe they may change their minds. But for me, when I saw the conclusions arrived at without any proper basis, because look, I asked my good friends Charles and Ken, can you give us the basis for arriving at the 1 billion figure? We struggled and struggled. Eventually, after a number of days, they brought something that looked like some 3-year analysis. And we said that's not enough. This is a significant resource. You need to go back into, and since you are doing 15, 20 years, look, don't forget that even the 15, 20 years was revised only after the Attorney General's prodding, right? This was the deal that the Finance Committee has agreed that it should be done in perpetuity. Reasons why I said they either decided and they lack basic financial understanding, because you cannot do a deal like this and say it should be in perpetuity. I mean, come on. And then they came back and revised it to 15 years or 20 years. And even then, they could have done something else, that after the 15 years, you see, the way all deposit code and all deposits are, after 15 years, it is most likely that you keep digging and you find significant more resources. They didn't even make room for all those things. They did not make room for assigning the leases after the lease period that expired. In any case, they did not even assign the lease in the first place. So that's why I do not have any serious confidence in the leadership of the committee to do a thorough job, because they failed every test that is done in the proper valuation. And I'm saying this because, look, I did learn economy, and we do value assets, even though I didn't carry it especially into the professional world. But I know basic valuation. I can value the building at Citi, for instance. At least I understand the basic methods to do valuation and comparables. I'm only trying to apply those to this bill. And we did it, a proper valuer could have been added to the team to value these assets anyway. It does not for nothing that in land economy we borrow courses from almost every department in tech in the university, from agriculture, so that we can evaluate or value crops, tree crops, from geodetic engineering, from how many? I've lost count. So I'm only coming to this conclusion not because I'm an expert in investment finance. The basic valuation method tells me that if I can't see proper metrics and a table that shows that this has been calculated over the life period of the project, in this case 15 years or so, as amended as a result of force by the Attorney General, this deal has not I can't be a proper valuation of it. That's the point. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like putting up a building and asking me to come and determine the price. I need to do comparable analysis to determine all the quantities that have been put in the building. And if there are any comparables, I can start off from that point. Then later I come back to you, the person who is either selling the property or want to buy the property, and say, look, After establishing all the comparables, this is the fair value based on the example. That's all you do. That's why when the building is older, you discount it as well. We say property is a hedge against inflation, but at the same time, you make room for depreciation.
Okay.
The thing of the sort done in this deal. So it was like Groby. So that's what I'm saying, that I'm a bit harsh on the committee, because we shouldn't be calling the special prosecutor out. As he shouldn't be saying the special prosecutor did the shoddy job. He did a shoddy job.
Honorable Inisa, so do you still stand by the calls for the finance minister to be handed a sack for this, or you are convinced your friend Aban thinks the calls are premature?
I don't know why my flag bearer said that the finance minister must be sacked. Maybe he was expressing his frustration at the finance minister.
You don't agree to that?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Not that I don't agree to that. I know that Nana Akufo-Addo will not sack him.
No. Put it well.
It's one thing. It's one thing agreeing with your flag bearer. It's another thing
I agree
saying
with the flag bearer.
You agree with him.
Yes, but I know that Nana Akufo-Addo will not sack him.
You agree with him? You agree with him that he should sack him?
Yes.
On the basis of what?
The things that he has done.
Oh, come on.
They're so glaringly wrong. They're so glaringly wrong. Even though Franklin says he has no doubt in his competence, he says that the assessment was wrong.
So you agree to that?
Yes, it was. Everything was wrong. The minority said, so you're saying you're going to first of all, we agree that because we don't have money and we have expected income, we can do a net present value analysis of our income and securitize it. We agree. So how much of the royalties are you going to securitize? They didn't have. At the committee meeting, they didn't have. So it's just like a blank check. We want to securitize, so securitize. No, you can't do that. We say, okay, so what are you going to use the 500?
Are you a member of the finance committee?
Franklin.
We sat there. We went there. They referred to the constitutional legal.
Hold on. Franklin is making an interjection. We are hearing you.
They did say that they will securitize 49% of those, the asset. But the problem was exactly the value they are put to it. They didn't do the net present value calculation.
Analysis. That's what I'm saying. You need to do the net present value analysis. So this is what I have. And you discount it because if you do what we are going to get these inflows, okay? And over a period of 15 years, this is the total inflows we will have. But because we want the money now, you must discount it, okay? And get the money now. When you discount it well, you can convince everybody that the money we are getting now, if we utilize it well, the beneficial effects will be as if we are taking the money installment for the 15 years. That's what you have to do. They didn't do. Timing. We say, okay, so if you are going to list on the stock market, London Stock Exchange, and then you are going to invite investors to take shares, and then you are going to, because now that SPV Ajapa is totally 100% owned by Ghana. If you are going to give out 50%, when are you going to get all the money? Then you think that you should do it now, when it's just left, at that time it was left with 6 months to the end of the year, or 4 months to the end of the year. So the timing was also wrong. And we said, look, you yourself, you say that every year we get about between $130 million to $200 million. Why are you taking $500 million for 15 years? Why? If every year we are going to get between $130 and $200 million, why don't you plan the implementation of your projects and limit whatever you're going to your expenditure to $130 million? You know that one day you will get, and you will do it in installment, because the projects that you're going to undertake, they will be finished in a year. So what you need to scrutinize and go and take. So it's just
okay.
But let me answer this question. Bringing it back to Parliament in the current form, it can be brought to Parliament because there are aspects of the deal, the transaction, that cannot be remedied by Parliament.
So what should be done with this particular deal?
Give an indication in the Eugene letter.
Yes.
It says, in view of the political climate, we either bring it back. They either bring it back to Parliament after the elections
in the next
or in the next Parliament. So he contemplates that this deal will not come now. The way we are talking, I hear many people saying, no. Even in that letter, he gives an indication that it can only come after the election, and that will depend on many conditions. Okay, will the election be a one-touch victory for a political party, or will it go to a second round? If it is going to go to a second round by 21st of December to 28th December, we should be having elections for the second round. What time will we have to set up?
Yeah.
So that one raises matters. So that is.
But you see,
and if this is the next Parliament, that means that agreement cannot be brought back to Parliament.
It has to start
all over again.
So for me, I don't have. I know that because of discussion, we are discussing as if the president's directive means bring it back. No, but if you look at the issues available now, it might not be able. We might not be able to consider it in this Parliament.
Yes, I believe that it's a very euphemistic way of saying that take time.
I believe so.
Submit it, Parliament.
I believe so.
All right.
I believe so. It's a nice way. In order to concede that something is fundamentally wrong, take it back to Parliament, but put a caveat there, and then you know that you are fine. I said they should take it back to Parliament, but they have not been able.
Okay. Let me try and read in some of the messages our viewers and listeners have been sending to us. This is the big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. There's a long one from Dominic in Airport Residential Area. In fact, I think the special prosecutor has proven beyond reasonable doubts that he is not the right person to do the work. My problem with him is you've been asked to investigate a JAPA and present a JAPA. You go ahead to mention Airbus scandal in your presentation of a JAPA. Let us be frank. Is Amidu trying to tell us that if there wasn't anything like a JAPA, he wouldn't have bring this Airbus scandal out? Okay. Charles Ingbawe, I commend the president for having the courage to allow Amidu work on the JAPA deal, but honestly, the Minister of Finance appears to have been reckless, you say, in his actions, and you call it embarrassing as well. Okay, the way Databank keeps popping up. Moses says, I'm listening in Kolegono. If a committee in Parliament couldn't read through documents presented to them, acting as check and balances for the country, why then do we pay them for such failure? Okay. Huto from Keta, I side with the special prosecutor for putting two reports vis-a-vis the JAPA royalties deal and the Airbus deal together. I sided with him because he asked for money to do a thorough job, but was given only 20 million. Okay. Queen La Paz, the way our politicians are behaving, I fear for the future of our children and grandchildren. On Twitter, Kofi Amwa says, Honorable Abban is confessing. And the God of forgiveness was to forgive him, but he keeps explaining and justifying himself. Okay.
Oh, what justification is that? Anyway, go ahead.
All right. This is the big issue. We've been talking about the JAPA royalties deal. And still in that report of the special prosecutor was a mention of the Airbus scandal. Now, if you don't know what exactly the special prosecutor said in there, I just want to quickly read that portion for you so you get an appreciation, and we'll also bring Mr. Mahama's response to that. It says the office has also warrant of arrest issued by the Court of Ghana and an Interpol Red Alert notice outstanding for the execution in a case of the Republic versus Samuel Adam Mahama, known as the Airbus SE Ghana bribery scandal involving the then government of Ghana, not to talk about documentary evidence or suspected forgeries and deceit of a public officer by the three full-blood brothers in the corruption transaction to obtain a Ghanaian passport for Samuel Adam Mahama. The office has established the identity of elected government official 1 to be former President John Dramani Mahama, whose brother of the full blood is Samuel Adam Foster, also known as Samuel Adam Mahama. the only reason the former president has not been invited for interrogation, in spite of all threats from some of his followers and lawyers, is the fact that he got himself an insurance as a presidential candidate of the largest opposition political party in Ghana, and prudence dictated that the interrogation be held in abeyance during this election season. The former president has also not offered to make any voluntary statements to this office, despite the publication of an alleged interview containing admissions purportedly made by the former president to a Daily Graphic reporter, without a full voice recording, which in the meantime remains just hearsay. This is on page 54 of that report by the Special Prosecutor Martin Amedu. Let's quickly bring you the response of the NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama to this aspect of the Special Prosecutor mentioning him in that report.
It's obvious why that paragraph was put in there. I mean, this damning report was coming out, and I'm disappointed in Martin Amedu to have put that paragraph there just to equalize and bring up Airbus as if it was a major issue. I've had my say on the Airbus issue. No financial benefit accrued to me, not a single dollar, you know. And the point even is, there is no basis. We're talking about a deferred prosecution agreement in which nobody's names were mentioned, and yet there's been inference that it must be this person, it must be that person, and so legally he doesn't even have any basis to proceed. On what basis? On what document is he proceeding?
He says he's done investigation, and that he has... What
investigation? Where
he has somebody of evidence.
Who has he spoken to? What investigation has he conducted? He should come out and tell.
So that's a former President Mahama, flag bearer of the NDC. He's made another statement also about this, where he used some words I don't want to repeat here. But Franklin, was it really necessary to mention the Airbus issue in this report the Special Prosecutor was putting out wholly about the Ejapa deal?
Well, not at all. It was unnecessary, really. I mean, unless of course he was also wrapping up his works for the year, and even then it could have come in some sort of an end of year report. But this was a special, you know, tax that he has given himself on the Japan, and it should have just remained there. If he was adding this as a footnote, well, because of the antennae that gets raised as a result of that, because that in itself is a colossal investigation that ought to be done, and given the international dimensions of it, not just the local politics, mentioning it in the Japan conversation was frankly unnecessary. I think the Special Prosecutor sometimes he probably acts like an activist of sort, which is allowed, but I think in this instance it was a mistake. He should have just written it solely on the Airbus, then let us know. I mean, by combining it, gave the impression that he was trying to equalize, and as elections were upon us, the same reason he gave for not calling the former president not have been contained in that particular letter, in that particular report.
Honorable Inisa.
Well, I think that in logic, it's called red herring. He threw in a red herring. And it's not only the Airbus, but he did it deliberately. He threw in the George Owusu matter, Jubilee oil field. He threw in the PPA Ajanem Boatin. These are matters.
And then the MP's loan vehicles issue.
And he just throws them in. They are red herrings. So everybody has something to chew on. It's intended, that's the effect. Intended to give everybody something to chew on. And so if I'm NDC and I'm talking about a Japan deal, somebody can say that, oh, what about the Airbus? What about the MPs? You are MP, you went and took money and bought vehicles without paying tax. He did that deliberately. And that is why I think that's unfortunate. You see, when you are given an assignment, you must discharge the assignment in such a way that you don't, in law we call it extraneous matters into the assignment. In this assignment, even Martin Hamidou was not given the assignment. Nobody invited Martin Hamidou to do an analysis of corruption and corruption risk assessment. He taken it from the matters that had come up in Parliament, the engagement with the minister, with civil society organizations, and the concerns raised by the chiefs, decided to invoke his jurisdiction to look into the matter. It was not referred to him. So that is even commendable in the first place, because you have that jurisdiction. So you invoke it to look into it. In looking into it, you decide to bring other things, which were referrals. That's why I said he invited the insult onto himself. For this report, even though people are raising, and you can see that is the nature of Martin Hamidou, he brings, even in writing about the report, it puts many flowery language, the patrimony of the chiefs and people of Ghana. I mean, we don't even need those expressions. I mean, mineral resources are held by the president in trust for the people of Ghana. That's what the Constitution says. I don't know anywhere that patrimony is used in the Constitution. But
why would he throw in that red herring of the NDC flag bearer at a time like this?
I've just told you, so that when NDC is chewing MPP on the Ajapa, MPP too has something to say on that. So that's the red herring. So, but come to think about it. Come to think about it. In not appearing to even justify Airbus. Martin Hamidou makes a ludicrous statement.
Which is?
That John Mahama bought himself an insurance by campaigning. Otherwise, you would have been invited for investigation. Did John Mahama lead the negotiation team to the UK for the purposes of negotiating the price of the Airbus? At any point in time, were there or were there not officials from the Ministry of Finance, from the Ghana Armed Forces, who led discussions with Airbus to determine the price of the airplanes that were going to be bought? Are those people campaigning? Are those people campaigning? Or your remit in the referral by Adedanko Akufo-Addo to you on the decision of the Serious Fraud Office in London was to determine who government official one is? Was that what Nana Akufo-Addo referred to you? So if indeed there were people connected with the purchase of the Casa Air Forces, airplanes, what prevented, stopped, or in any way held you back in starting investigations with them? What prevented Martin Hamidou from doing that? From inviting the military officers who went to London, who negotiated the transaction? Because I know, as a matter of fact, that there was a committee that investigated the matter. I know, as a Parliament was even involved, because the Committee on Defence was part of the committee. Well, so what prevented him from doing that? Because your remit is to determine whether there was some impropriety, not who government official what is. Was there any impropriety? So why will you throw in that? I mean, that's why I say that, in fact, the former president was very charitable to Martin Hamidou.
Really?
I'm telling you, I would have used more insulting words on him.
As a former president?
Yes, he was very charitable. Because why will you bring my name into it? So if you have concluded your investigations, put your investigations out. But I have always said, even he's referring to the red alert. I gave you an interview in Parliament. I said it was brutal full men. Because the special Serious Fraud Office in London refused to mention the names of people who were connected with it. Airbus sacked 43 of their senior staff. They didn't mention their names because they were administrative lapses within Airbus. That was the subject matter of complaint by Boeing. And so that was why they were fined. And in the judgment in London, the serious fraud office said they would not mention their names, the people's names, because they could be subject to harassment in their own countries. And they were not the subject matter of investigation. So why will you? And so when he said he had issued red alert warrants, I gave an interview and said it will come to nothing. As a legal practitioner, it will come to nothing. Because your jurisdiction, because even the people you have collaborated with under the International Mutual Legal Assistance Scheme are saying that those people are not subject of investigation. So why would you ask that they deport those people or bring back those people to Ghana for you to investigate? Because the office itself is telling you that those people are not subject of any crime. So I told him that he was just playing to the gallery for nothing. And I still hold that view.
Honorable Aban,
it says political insurance. You see, Matamir is indirectly telling you that the whole of people of Ghana that if you commit a crime, in order to buy insurance, go into politics.
I think he's just being.
He's not being.
There's
nowhere. Even in Israel, Prime Minister, what's his name?
Israel's Prime Minister.
Oh, I thought
Netanyahu.
Netanyahu.
When he was doing elections, he was being invited for investigations.
But this stuff.
He was doing election. Election was taking place.
This stuff. Is it not the case that in Ghana?
Is it Ghana?
Anybody who
is that how democracy works?
Anybody who is politically exposed, as soon as he is arrested,
but I've never considered
yes, sir.
You know I respect you very much.
I know. I'm just asking a question.
This principle.
No,
that if you are,
I'm only asking.
No, you see, into the narrative that politicians, when they want to commit crime, when people want to commit crime, they join politics.
It's not that they join politics, but you see, when crime occurs, in dealing with it, once you bring in political discourses, then the crime itself is swept away somewhere and becomes a political banter.
If a voter commits a crime during elections, he shouldn't be arrested.
No, but you see, we have it in grades.
What is the equality before the law?
This stuff, we have it in grades. Look, a politician should a politician be arrested on some charges, right? By reason of his position at that level. You see his political followers all massing up at the police station and all that. Haven't you seen that? So probably it is that same thing that he's talking about.
If a chief commits a crime during election, he shouldn't be arrested.
No, but a chief is a chief. A chief is not a politician.
But your same party would have criticized him going into the elections if he had decided to invite Mr. Mahama.
In any case, you see,
nobody would have criticized him. Performing his function.
So you don't need him to be merciful.
He also says that Mahama should have come to give a voluntary statement.
Yes,
but
he hasn't done.
What made him the distance?
But the constitutional.
Let's hear from Honorable.
But there are even constitutional impediments. You know that when a person who has served as president and if a crime is committed within 3 years,
he cannot. After investigation, he cannot be prosecuted.
So,
but that's not, he has not been investigated. He says he has not been investigated.
In any case,
do you think Mahama's concerns are justified?
Oh, for me, I think that this bit of the Airbus scandal should not have found space at all in those reports. Let this report stand on its own about Ejapa. Let's deal with it on its merit. We also require from him, as a matter of utmost concern to Ghanaians, that we also have a comprehensive report on the Airbus scandal.
Okay.
Right? So that we see who has committed what. Okay? It's also important for Ghanaians. So that's what I would say. But if he brings it up this way, are we going to say that, okay, that investigation is also over? We do not know what to draw from this. Is that investigation over? And if we get to know the identity of government official one, so what? because the point is that, in truth, okay, if you do all the permutations of relationships and all that, right, any reasonable person can say that government official one irresistibly points to former president. That's my view, right?
Okay.
But what we need to know is the various roles played by
all the parties in that. And if Ghana lost anything as a result of the involvement of these people, if we did, how are we going to retrieve that? Okay. And what processes there are for us and all that. It's not just to know the identity of those people. And the red alert and the warrants, I think that there must be proper procedures starting from Ghana where we have a complaint that this and this and this and this has happened. Okay. And Ghana has lost this much, blah, 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 blah. So investigate. Fine, it will be in our interest that having seen something from the UK, you try to also do some investigations here. But if you seek the warrant or you raise the red alert just on the basis of what UK put out the Serious Fraud Office put out there, they will tell you that, look, we were doing our investigation about Airbus, okay, and in doing that, certain persons were connected. They were not the subject of our investigation, so we cannot assist you in that. So you start your proper investigation here.
Well, he doesn't tell us when or whether that investigation is still ongoing, but I'm sure we'll see.
But the former president should not try to get himself too much involved in this. As for the government official, one thing, look, you don't need to read anything more to point to him. That one, that's my view.
This is a big issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. Honorable Minister, you speak after the break. Don't go away. We'll be bringing more of your messages and delve into other issues as well.
Ago, I had nowhere to turn to. I needed funds urgently. That's when I ran into Wafakofi. It's you, Wafakofi.
Hello.
It's good I saw you here.
Really?
You know, with businesses restarting after the lockdown, getting funds has been really difficult to pay for some of the goods in high demand, and my supply is no longer selling on credit.
Sister Ama, my financial partner is Advanced Savings and Loans. Advanced stayed by my side all through the COVID crisis. They offered me grace period. They also gave me advice on how to manage my business, and now they are here to help me clear my containers by offering me a loan.
Are you sure they are giving out loans even during the COVID pandemic?
Yes, Advance Ghana has you covered.
So that's how I got a loan to stock up my shop.
Call us on 0800 355 355 or visit our nearest branch for our various loan and deposit products. Advance, your preferred financial partner.
If you win, no one win like that's planet. My baby,
Sunana Abdul Razak. Last week, I received a message from Bet Planet. Come on, now win golden ticket. Nadanje Jin Saya, my Mercedes Benz. Omba Kuyada Kuma, Gashina, Gasuna Nakai. Ongera Gora come on Gaskiani. Mona Sunchi, now go to Bet Planet. Now go to
if you win, no one win like that's planet. My baby, if you win, no one win like that's planet.
This is the Election Bureau. You're welcome back to the big issue. We've been talking about a number of things, mainly on the Special Prosecutor's report that he released about the Ejapa royalties deal, the mention of John Mahama in there. Franklin, you say it wasn't necessary, but he gives a number of reasons why he hasn't invited Mr. Mahama yet for his responses, if I should put it that way, on the Airbus issue. Were his reasons enough?
His reasons are more political than legal. They're more political than legal. And I think because he's been in politics before, he also wanted to be featured on the campaign trail.
John Mahama is campaigning.
So I think he knew very well that the media would pick that up. And he knows the site.
Yeah.
And even though it was a record, but it was celebrating enough to suggest that and Kenya election now. But you see, it was like Honorable Nusa said, that seems to give some sort of excuse, some sort of cover for engaging in crime. And we've been lamenting forever that people get into politics, and when they commit crime, they get insurance because people will mass up against any form of interrogations or what have you. They just played into the very galeric conversations about our politics, and I think it was good.
Honorable Inisa, Honorable Aban stated that you don't need a soothsayer to let you know that Mr. Mahama, John Mahama, is government official one in that Airbus report. Do you think he is government official one?
Well, I don't think he's government official one. And even if he's government official one, like Aban said, so what? You see, that is the bane of politics in Ghana. We leave the substance of the issue and deal with the periphery. If Mama is government official one, what does it add to the investigation? What does it add?
You don't think he adds anything?
No.
He's the former president.
No, what does it add? It has nothing.
Nothing?
First of all, Ghana as a state entered into a transaction to purchase aeroplanes. Somehow, in the purchase of aeroplanes, somebody connected to the head of state then led a group of third-party dealers to Ghana. Okay, the Airbus called them their agents, business associates to Ghana to engage with the Ghanaian officials. You need to establish whether his presence in the team, occasioned any impropriety in Ghana. You need to establish that. That is not being established. Now, why did Boeing send the matter to court? It is not Airbus, it's Boeing that sent the matter to court. Boeing claimed that the anti-corruption or Patriot legislation in America,
the Patriot
Act in America, if you read it carefully, and the Serious Fraud Office Act in London, if you read it carefully, you will come to the conclusion that the involvement of Samuel Adam Mahama or Samuel Foster in the transactions or discussions leading to the purchase of the aircraft clearly gave a perception, created the perception that because Samuel Mahama is close, related to the first gentleman of the land, he would have had inappropriate, and in quote, inappropriate advantage. Okay? And in the Airbus business or in the airplane business, you can't use your personal connection for inappropriate advantage. That Airbus was, Boeing was clearly just saying that the Ghana's decision to purchase the Airbus was not based on technical superiority of the Airbus, but because of the personal relationship between those who led Airbus and the government officials making the decision.
No, but there was a statement in there that some bribery.
No, there was no statement.
Airbus
No, let me come. Oh, I'm coming. I've not read the judgment. You have been misled.
I haven't been misled.
In the transactions.
Why did Airbus pay the settlement if they did not agree to wrongdoing?
Wait. In the transactions, in the document of contract, the document recited that Airbus agents were entitled to the payment of commission, not above a certain amount. I think 1,300 or something, some amount of money per transaction. Now, when Airbus recruited a due diligence expert after the engagement of the company incorporated by Samuel Mahama, that due diligence company after doing due diligence came to the conclusion that Samuel Mahama's involvement will raise the issue of inappropriate advantage. So he was removed. So Samuel Mahama was no longer, or his company were no longer agents. So they constituted a company in Spain to continue to deal with Ghana. That company sold the aircraft to Ghana. But somehow, that Airbus company in Spain transferred the agency fee that was in the contract to Samuel Mahama. That was what occasioned the investigation by Serious Fraud Office. Because if your agency has been terminated, then the aircraft has been sold, and the agency has been terminated, you are no longer entitled to the agency. But it is not Ghana that paid the agency fees. It is the company in Spain that paid the agency fee to the company incorporated by Mama Adams. That is why an internal investigation led to the sacking of the senior Airbus officials in Spain. Because it was brought to their attention that there was no longer an agreement between that company that initially came to engage with the Ghanaian officials and Airbus. So on what basis were they paid the commission?
All right.
Now,
let's hear from our viewers and listeners. Okay, they've been listening to you, and their comments are here. Sweet video in Oyarifa. I'm really sad as a Ghanaian. We live in a country where truth is exchanged for certain groups' parochial interests. The media is doing, you say the media is doing the bidding of those in authority. That's untrue. The future of this country is in the hands of people who can still do better, who can steal better. Okay. Walanyo in Akwetia, there must be something beneficial to Ghana in this Ejapa royalties deal, since the minority is fond of kicking against any socioeconomic policies that are bound to relieve the poor and underprivileged Ghanaian from the shackles of poverty, diseases, and hopelessness. MPP remains the best political party that Ghanaians can trust, and their continuation for another 4 years is guaranteed. Okay. From positive change in Medina, we should not give the governments the sense of the right to believe they are entitled to 2 terms. Winning an election is based on achievements, track records, and performance. Okay, Abladi, Ifia Kuma Zongo, I think the debate would prove the competency of Ghanaian leadership. So we are waiting. Kwekwe in La Paz, Masinamidu must stop the equalization in the discharge of his duties. Babamu from Tamale, it's amazing how NDC communicators have conveniently refrained from commenting on that aspect of the Airbus deal. Okay, finally, Abdul Basit in Kumasi. Your message has got nothing to do with the issue we are discussing here, so I'm going to skip that. This is the big issue. I'd like us to move on, gentlemen, to one other subject of discussion this morning, and it has to do with the Imani final report card on the delivery of the MPP's government's manifesto, 2016 manifesto report, and that report was issued within the week, and we are going to bring you highlights of that, what the Imani scorecard revealed about how the MPP government has achieved their promises they made in that 2016 manifesto. It says only 56% of those promises were achieved.
According to the report, the New Patriotic Party fulfilled 57% of the 162 promises it made in the 2016 manifesto in the area of economy. The promise to reduce corporate tax from 25% to 20% and a transparent distribution of Maslok funds are yet to be achieved. Under governance, the report explained that government could not deal with corruption as promised, although the Office of the Special Prosecutor was established. The setting up of a website for corruption reporting and the compliance with the Public Procurement Authority in awarding government contracts were all promises that were not fulfilled in the 4-year tenure of the New Patriotic Party government. The assessment raised concerns about the infrastructure deficit yet to be tackled. The promise to complete the Eastern Corridor roads, the registration of all Ghanaians, reviewing the siting of fuel stations and finding ways to end flooding in the country were all not achieved. In explaining the reasons for the performance, research consultant at Imani, Dennis Asari, mentioned the lack of commitment and inadequate allocation of resources at his courts.
Clear lack of commitment to such promises, and also what we could also say is that government revenue is very limited. So when they promise the heavens, they come back and realize that, they can only provide the earth. So it becomes very difficult for you to prosecute all your promises. So the challenge is that government has a lot of things to do, but the revenue is limited. So they may not be able to also implement all that. There are some too that it's just lack of commitment. For example, establishing the mental health fund. You don't need revenue to establish a fund. There's the LI has been passed. There's an authority in charge of mental health. So establishing the fund doesn't require a whole huge or any laborious process to do that. So some of them, apart from the lack of commitment to do it, sometimes the government revenue also limits them.
Vice Chairman of the Communications Committee of Parliament and the NPP Member of Parliament for Sekondi, Andre Ejapa Mesa, disagreed with the findings of the report.
It's good for third parties to evaluate the manifesto commitments of political parties. We ourselves have assessed and evaluated our performance. I think that the MPP did better than the Imani assessment is. But I think that by and large, it's a useful contribution to our democratic process. And as the years go by, I'm sure that it will be improved for it to become some standard if that is the way to go. But I think, like the Vice President said, that we've done in the region of some 70 to 80% of our 2016 manifesto commitments to the people of Ghana.
He says the report will not affect the chances of the governing New Patriotic Party in the December polls.
Competing, then we need to compare the records of the opponent, right? Imani assessed the NDC in 2016's final scorecard at 52.9%. We have done 56.7%. So clearly, when it comes to the delivery on the promises, a third party has indicated that the New Patriotic Party performed better than the National Democratic Congress. So I don't.
Okay, so that's a quick report on that document by Imani. Let me begin with you, Franklin, on this one. Overall, what underpinned this checklist of the MPP government's 2016 manifesto?
Well, thank you very much. Many people do not, many people forget that we started this enterprise of asking, if you like, the business plans of political parties somewhere in 2008. And when we started, we had some very interesting promises. For instance, I recall Ramondo Sakoto, who wanted to be president, suggesting that he would generate electricity by suspending permanent magnets into the atmosphere. Was it Kofi Wayo who said his agricultural policy would be growing sufficient donkeys in the north and using their dung as fertilizer? Pakwesi Indum suggested that you establish a pipe from the oil fields in the south to the north in order to create employment. In fact, Danlate, may he so rest in peace, suggested that he would mobilize internal resources to the tune of $840 billion, so that by the time his hypothetical, his potential office, the tenure would have run for 4 years, Ghana's economy would have been almost 7.2 trillion, which would have obviously rivaled that of the UK, Britain, and the rest of the, the OECD world. So we thought that, look, it was about time that we started asking questions. What are the business plans? Of course, we know countries are not run like corporations. But precisely the reason, because the resources needed to prosecute whatever agenda any party has must be, first of all, generated. And so if you did not have a full view, or if you have potential view of how much resources that you have to prosecute an agenda, then you have to be careful as to how you create your promises, right? And since we started that, we've seen some noticeable improvements. I recall that in 2012, 2015, when we started by now doing content codification of the promises of the NDC, we found out that they made 540 promises. By the time we are done assessing their promises based on the number of sources we identified from the annual report, from budget statements, from parliamentary Hansards, from the manifesto itself, and from websites and media reportage, we found out that they had attained almost 52.9% of the promises. And you see, though it's an output assessment, you'll be careful to dismiss it by suggesting that we're just counting promises. We actually go ahead and do some serious quantitative analysis. As for instance, if the NDC at the time promised that they would increase the generation capacity of the country of power to almost 5,000 megawatts, we were able to calculate how much they had added to the stock of power as at the time they were leaving office, and gave them a score of almost 75% out of 1. That's 7.5% out of 1, because they had added close to almost 4,000 megawatts of power, right?
Yeah.
So the assessment is done in such a way that, whereas we are just counting ordinary promises, we also carefully do the analysis properly. So in the case of the NPP, for instance, you found out that the NPP suggested, for instance, that under the economy, they're going to achieve double-digit GDP growth annually for the next 4 years. This was a promise made in 2016. Now you realize that under this score, they score 0, for the simple reason that the GDP growth of Ghana has been 8.5% in 2017, 6.3% in 2018, 6.7% in 2019, and was going to projected to be below 2% in 2020. Someone will say because of COVID, that's how come it is 2%. But we all know that even without COVID, there was no way the NPP was going to achieve a double-digit GDP growth, even if COVID hadn't happened. They had projected 7.2%, right? Take a promise like the National Asset Protection Project and the infrastructure.
Okay.
We gave 0.5 out of 1 because the finance minister in 2017 mentioned government's intentions to ensure the protection of government assets and ensure proper inventory of those assets. In fact, the NAAPP was established and the GIF was designated as an organization to implement the project. The Ghana Asset Management Project Corporation was developed in 2018 and approved by Cabinet in 2019. But the bill is yet to be presented to Parliament for passage into law in 2020. So they see that they've done a number of things to attain that promise, but they've not attained it. So we give them a 0.5 out of 1. Then they suggested, for instance, that under foreign affairs, the NPP would play an active part in the effort to create the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We all know that under this administration, Ghana has successfully campaigned for the establishment of the Secretariat of the AFTA in Ghana. And they've done a yeoman's job at having a series of meetings to do that. So they achieve a full 1%. Now, it is important to know that the promises, as I said, were codified into 5 themes, broad themes, based on the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's own multidimensional framework for determining proper governance or proper well-being in any country. So under the economy, we looked at the income, wealth, and job earnings. Under human capital investment, we look at the promises related to health and education and skills. Under governance, we look at civic engagement, governance, and personal security. Under social, we look at basically subjective well-being, social connections, work and work-life balance. And then the infrastructure, we look at the environmental quality, housing conditions, and what have you. So you realize that when we do all of that, we then decide that we do a weighting of these assets, of these very promises. But the OECD formula is that once a country gets governance and economy right, the next thing would automatically follow. So for instance, infrastructure will be developed, the social sector will be developed, and indeed the other dimensions of development will be developed. So we weighted the economy and governance separate, differently, 25%, 25%, and infrastructure 20%, social, human capital development 15%, and then social sector 15%. However you do the weighting, even if you assign all these weights equally on the 5 sectors, the difference wouldn't be significantly different. So you look at all of those and then ask yourself, how did we then arrive at the economy, for instance, performing 57.62%? Because we realized that under the economy, 162 promises were made. 87 under the general economy, trade and industry, 54 under agriculture, and 21 under tourism. Now, a total of 41 promises out of these 162 promises have been fully implemented.
Okay.
Now, 62%, which comes to 101 of these, have been partially implemented, and 20 of them not initiated at all. An example we gave was abolishing the special import levy, 1%, been fulfilled.
It's been done.
Part of the responsibility law has been fulfilled. Abolishing the 17.5% VAT has been fulfilled. Fiscal Council has been established. 17% VAT on NHI, on financial services has been done. Financial sector cleanup has also been carried out. But we also know that achieving the double-digit GDP has not been done, has not been attained. The facilitation of the consumer protection law has not been passed. In fact, the promise by the APP to reduce the corporate tax rate from 25% to 20% is yet to be done. They also promised to minimize political patronage of state-sponsored microfinance institutions like Maslow. We all know that has not been done. Now, you keep going on and on and on, and then you come to, let's say, agriculture. One of the things they've done is to ensure that farming inputs are readily available within farming communities at affordable prices. I mean, the fertilizer and seed subsidy program was a clear example. It's been done. Reintroduction of compensation of payments under the cocoa disease control program. They've actually granted almost 552 Ghana cedis to almost 1,000 cedis per hectare. Actually increases from 52 cedis to 1,000 cedis per hectare. So they've done that. They've done mass cocoa spraying. They've revived the research program for the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. So they've done all of those. But yet to be fulfilled, they said they will institute anti-dumping measures on poultry. There's no strong evidence to this promise, right? We've not seen any anti-dumping policy on poultry that has been done. They also said they'll promote and incentivize research in using remote sensing and satellite imaging technologies to map soil properties nationwide. This is yet to be done. So, in agriculture, they attained 59.54%. If you come to human capital investment, and I'll wrap up shortly, overall, a total of 63 promises were made under human capital investment, 32 of them under education, and 31 under health. Now, those that have been fully fulfilled is to redefine basic education to include SHS, agricultural and technical schools, and make it available for free on a universal basis. We all know free SHS has been done, clearly. They also said they restore the policy and additionally support Arabic and Islamic instructors with training and other incentives to motivate them to provide good training to our children. We know that 3,000 Arabic instructors have been recruited and deployed, so it's been done. Restored teacher training allowance, it's been done. Increase the amount of loan under the student loan scheme and streamline its administration, it's been done. What has not been done is the collaboration with the private sector to provide free Wi-Fi coverage for senior secondary and tertiary institutions nationwide. You and myself know that there's no Wi-Fi in all secondary schools and tertiary institutions. There's yet to be done. They also said they will ensure that every region has 2 state-of-the-art technical and vocational institutions. We all know that has not been done, right? So you come to the health sector, and they said they will review and restructure the sources of funding as well as the institutional arrangement for the management of NHIs. It's been done. In fact, we encouraged and even gave an award to the NHI or NHIS because they did some proper work when it came to digitization of some of their services. Now, they also said they would direct and strictly seed all funds raised through the NHI levy into the NHIF fund. We know a bill has been passed in Parliament and a technical committee has been constituted. They said they'll restore trainee nurses allowances in full. We know that has been done. But what has not been fully done yet is the implementation of a comprehensive plan for the safe disposable of biomedical waste.
Okay.
It has not been done.
So
you realize that when it comes to governance, just because governance is quite critical here, we realize that when it came to establishing the Office of Social Prosecutor, they've done it. Ensure the passage of the right information to they've done it. Support the work of NCC to sensitize the citizens against corruption. They've done it. They've at least resolved them, even though it took a while. Implement the findings of the Public Accounts Committee. They've done that. At least they've retrieved 7 million Ghana cedis between 2018 and 2019. They also said 30% of appointments will be female, and they've done that. Amended the Criminal Offences Act to make corruption a felony. It's been done. But what has not been done is to establish a website to support corruption reporting in accordance with the Whistleblowers Act. They said they will establish a website that you and myself, anytime we feel somebody is being corrupt, you report to that website. It's not been done. They set up a procurement audit unit at the Auditor General. Quick enforcement of the PPA legislations. We all know what has happened to the PPA. So all of this, when you look at it, and then local governments, we all know that the promise to oversee the election of MMDCs has also not been done. And when you go on and on and on, I think on the governance, corruption, and public accountability, they score 43% because clearly they didn't do much. Local government, they get 37%. All of this out of a governance score of 59.2%. Now, so indeed, when you look at all of these, then you then realize that the overall performance, so economy, they achieved 57.62%, governance 59.25%, social services 58.85%, human capital investment 55.87%, and then infrastructure 51.71%, giving them a score of 56.77%. Overall performance, satisfactorily fair progress, and that's the way it is really. One has got to report to realize the methodology that was adopted, and then the content analysis that was done.
I think you've given us quite a brief of the entire document, and Honorable Inusa, based on the thematic areas and the mode of this assessment, says it's satisfactorily fair, the performance of the NPP government within the last 4 years. Do you agree?
I don't know what to say actually.
Why?
Because I'm living in a Ghana where I'm seeing cosmic performance. And listening to my good friend, he talks about quantitative analysis. As a student of political science, I like more of qualitative analysis. How will the fulfillment of the promises? I mean, for instance, you said they have reduce corporate tax.
No, they didn't.
They didn't.
They promised 5%.
It hasn't been done.
20%. They've not done that.
Okay, so how has the office of the special prosecutor has been established? Corruption has been an issue. The MPP manifesto in 2016 said, when we are given the mandate, we will establish the office of the special prosecutor and make corruption a high-risk activity. So that office has been established. So yes, there is a fulfillment of the promise. So that goes to their credit. But qualitative analysis, has that reduced the impact of corruption and the incidence of corruption? That's, as a student of politics, that's what I'm interested in. You see, efficiency in the performance of functions. Yes, sir.
We realize that it's indeed, even though this was set out to be more quantitative, we make qualitative analysis as well. So, for instance, under governance corruption, they get only 43% because we said that even though they established the special prosecutor's office, when it comes to corruption, we use the index of the the transparency index as a yardstick.
Yes.
It's not been perfect.
So that's what I'm interested. As a student, that's what I'm interested in. I mean, I've been reading a book that talks
when
about. When I get a full report. So when I get the full report, because when I have a book that I've been reading of late, and it talks about efficiency in the performance of public works. And efficiency is simply, and they've given a very banal definition of efficiency. Efficiency indicator in the public service is, would it have cost somebody in the private sector lesser to do that particular job that the public office is doing?
Okay.
That's the indicator, that's the yardstick. So you talk about fulfillment of free senior high school education policy. Brilliant. Now, and I always say, this is the first time we have comprehensive free senior high school. But since Ghana went independent, Ghana has been, all students in Ghana, irrespective of where you are, has been enjoying aspects of free education. Because no student anywhere in Ghana has ever paid in public schools, has ever paid fees for the fees to pay teachers. The fees of teachers have always been charged on the consolidated fund, or has ever paid fees for the fees to be used to buy chalk. The chalk has always been on the consolidated fund. They become a budget for goods and services of the Ministry of Education. So, yes, so government has implemented it. I, as a student of political science, am very delighted that everybody has opportunity to go to school now. But what is the impact? Are we producing quality students now? Because we don't just want to produce educated people. We want to produce educated people who are competitive. Are we producing them? What are the challenges? So we are fulfilled 100%. It's fulfilled. Outcome. So you have input outcome method. I don't see that. One district, one factory, or one village, one dam, or one constituency per
ambulance.
No, one constituency per $1 million. $1 million. Yes, they say they have fulfilled it, and the ambulances are part of it. So I want a quantitative analysis to say, okay, so we saw the ambulances. So every constituency has gotten an ambulance. Oh yes. So we have 275 ambulances. How much is the cost of an ambulance? And within the 4 years, or even working for 3 years, you have $3 million. I want a quantitative analysis for the fulfillment of this promise to indicate that in every constituency, within the past 3 years, the government of Ghana, working through the special Ministry for Special Initiatives, has spent $3 million on XYZ projects, as we can account for the ambulances, because we have been told that the ambulances are part of the 1 million per constituency. I don't see it. So they would have fulfilled 1 million per constituency, and they say they are doing the projects. Because you see, when you do, all promises of political parties are promises that will develop into policies, and which policies will be funded by the budget. and the budget is public resources. So, in accounting for the fulfillment of the promises, we must also account for the utilization or otherwise of the resources. In areas where we say special levy is removed, we must do a quantitative analysis to show whether the removal has brought an overall benefit to this country in terms of releasing money to businesses who otherwise would have used such money to pay a special levy, and because the monies have been released to those businesses, that has created this number of jobs. If we don't do that, we politicians will always take the people for a ride, because we fulfill the promises, and they will be cosmic. They won't add anything.
I totally agree with Honorable Inusa. As the next leg of our work, really, I mean, we try to make room for some of the qualitative analysis in the report, but if the import of this report is just an output-based one, quantitative. The next level of work we are going to do, again, then the analysis of manifestos, will be a combination of just not the ordinal as well as the qualitative. We normally do the qualitative through our budget analysis anyway. But I hear the concerns, and I think it's legitimate that we do all of those. It's important, and that will be the next work. And hopefully, Honorable Nusa, when he's out of Parliament, I'll come to you for resources to be able to do that.
You think Nolobi? When we get it, when we meet at Nolobi?
Honorable Aban,
yes, ma'am.
Some 56%, that's the ranking, based on how the MPP government has fared over the last 4 years per Imani's scorecard.
Thank you very much. It's always good that as you walk the path of governance, you get other people who are watching from behind, right, to assess you on the performance. So it's always good. We will not just discount it. I believe that probably my friend would have said we have performed, woefully bad if the scorecard from...
I still believe that you have performed woefully bad.
But don't worry, don't worry.
You say if it was them in power, it would have been woefully bad.
No, what I'm saying is that because at least it's, I mean, if you round it up to 57%, it's not woefully bad. He decided.
He sided with you.
He decided to actually go on the tangent of qualitative.
Franklin, let's listen to you. Yeah.
What people don't also realize is that, you see, when we do the analysis, we say partially fulfilled and just fully fulfilled. So the fully fulfilled and partially fulfilled is...
I think we've lost him briefly there. Go ahead when he comes.
Yes, so
those that have been fully fulfilled, the various stages of being fulfilled, can come to almost 71%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it means having the ones in the pipeline.
Some of the things are not events in themselves; they are processes to an end, right? So, at what time would you say they are fulfilled? But at least he's trying to give some explanation there that some of it may have been in that continuum. So they are partially fulfilled, and they assign some kind of figure or a value to it, right? I would not pretend to be a statistician. So if based on their statistics, they think that we have done 57% or 56 point something percent, that is for them. It's also good to look at the qualitative aspect of it. You fulfilled it, and how did it translate into the life of the people, right? I must say, without any fear of contradiction, that if it's just about, a checklist of records, right? we are far, far better than the NDC. And some of the things that we have fulfilled, that's why he later put some weight on it and all that. But some of the things that we have fulfilled, the amount of money that you require in making sure that they really come to life, okay? You may have used that money in fulfilling that one promise to execute probably plenty others.
Okay.
And how are you going to deal with the plenty others that have not been fulfilled just because you are dealing with one big promise? Because I can assure you that free SHS, for instance, the amount of money that goes into it, if we were to shelve that one and you want to keep that one as just one, okay, as against all other promises, probably the amount of money spent on that would have been used to fulfill so many other promises. Okay, so for it, please allow me to talk. No, that's why I'm saying that in the final analysis they came in with some kind of weighted aggregation or values for the various things, right? In the final analysis, I think we are upbeat that we have fulfilled most of the promises.
Okay.
Most of them.
Most of them.
Yes, we have fulfilled most of them. And like I said, when it comes to the issues of governance, issues of running the economy and all other things, we are much, much better. Because in doing this, you must not lose sight of where we're coming from, right? We must not lose sight of the 5 years of doom that we experienced. We must not lose sight of the declaration by the NDC that Atudombe, right? and it called for the ingenuity of the NPP government to restore the economy to good health and all that, right? So for me, let us thank Imani for the work. It only serves as a guide, but we will not just discount it. But I
Franklin,
think
you wanted to make an interjection quickly before
better.
Honorable Lenusa's final take on this one.
The fine gentlemen, honorable gentlemen in the studio, have given much more impetus to the fact that there must be a qualitative approach to these things as well. It's very important for the simple reason that when Honorable Aban suggests, following from Honorable Inuse's point, that disproportionately, these promises are disproportionate in terms of the values assigned, the investment assigned. It's a very useful point because 3SHS obviously took a significant amount of money. But the promises are not equal. Even though we managed to assign unequal weighting, but the qualitative analysis will bear it out eventually. But you see, the other thing we wanted to achieve was to ensure that we reduce the number of promises we make so that we focus on qualitative ones. So if you look at the NPP's 2020 manifesto, they made just about 187 promises, significantly 510. Well, you can say that, well, I mean, I can arrogate to myself that the money effect played a role. You see, you realize that they make qualitative promises. So for instance, they say they want to invest $250 million in some education-related projects. They set up which is cultural insurance being provided. Then they make very measurable type of promises. Same with the NDC as well. You realize their promises, even though they sound many, is consultative and there are some of them are very verifiable and we are able to measure them. And that's all we want. So we don't make a lot of promises and then end up saying that, oh, but look at me, I made all these promises, but rate me differently because I have to invest a lot more in one of the promises. So make fewer promises and then make sure that they are delivering qualitative value.
Honorable Minister, finally.
Well, I also agree with him. I mean, the values definitely ought to be different. Because when you arrogate yourself the promise of making a critical sector of the economy, access to a critical sector of the economy free, and you do make it free, the allocation of resources to that sector alone will be huge. But that's not the basis for, that should not be a basis for complaint.
Okay.
Because you said you could do it.
I'm not complaining.
You said you could do it. And so when you...
I'm not complaining at all.
Because you said you could do it, you did it. So
exactly.
You can't complain.
Are they doing that? They are not complaining, are they?
I don't think you saw my submission as a complaint.
Because you see, not only him, and many people are complaining. They say, oh, but you know the resources going to the free... They do it. They say always.
Complaint?
That's a complaint.
Frankly.
No.
Yes, you know why? On a very lighter note. Look, I remember I was telling the vice president that you people put in your manifesto, you do what town hall, but you've not done any of them until 2019. It's so easy. Then there also the promise. Nobody forced you to make the promise that you establish a website where people can report corruption. Setting a website doesn't cost more than 3,000 Ghana. Don't do it. Nobody forced you to say that you provide free Wi-Fi to secondary schools.
Yeah, don't put it there.
Well, they say that one is also in the pipeline. The vice president has been talking about that.
Complain at all. For instance, if we say we are going to do one village, one dam, and we don't see it, and we are complaining, they say, oh, but we're doing it. Don't complain. You don't complain. We want to see it. And if we do the dams and we say the dams are not good, you don't tell us that that's the dams that you can afford. Because when you say one village, one dam, we have a concept of what a dam is. And so you don't complain.
Come on.
Okay.
Don't complain.
Danjuma Bawa on Facebook says, good and fair review by Imani. Tell my good friend Franklin to share the link with me. I want to have a good read to complement policy reviews. Okay. There's a message here from Sule Ibrahim. Says, this MPP man is too honest and I love him. What is wrong is wrong. So that's one for you, Honorable Aban. We are going to quickly talk about the elections in the United States of America. Many Ghanaians have been following that issue, and Franklin, I'll be coming first to you because it's not looking good for your friend Donald Trump. And quickly, a summary on the BBC's website. Joe Biden appears close to winning the presidency after securing more than 27,000 votes in more than Donald Trump in Pennsylvania. Addressing supporters, Biden says the numbers tell us a clear story. We are going to win this race. The Democrats also leads in Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona states that provide the other paths to the presidency. Now, President Trump warned Biden against declaring victory a day after appearing to do so himself. Now, overall turnout is projected to be the highest in 120 years at 66.9%.
Wow.
We are going to bring you brief clips of what the two gentlemen have been saying. And, okay, let's take a listen to them right now.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. We don't have a final declaration of victory yet, but the numbers tell us it's clear. Tell us a clear and convincing story. We're going to win this race. Just look at what has happened since yesterday. 24 hours, we were behind in Georgia. Now we're ahead, and we're going to win that state. 24 hours ago, we were behind in Pennsylvania, and we are going to win Pennsylvania. And now we're ahead, but we're winning in Arizona, winning in Nevada, and in fact, our lead just doubled in Nevada. We're on track to over 300 electoral college votes. And look at the national numbers. We're going to win this race with a clear majority with the nation behind us. We've gotten over 74 million votes. Let me repeat that, 74 million votes. That's more than any presidential ticket has ever gotten in the history of the United States of America. And our vote total is still growing. We're beating Donald Trump by over 4 million votes. And that's a margin that's still growing as well. One of the things I'm especially proud of is how well we've done across America. And we're going to be the first Democrat to win in Arizona in 24 years. We're going to be the first Democrat to win Georgia in 28 years. And we've rebuilt the blue wall in the middle of the country that crumbled just 4 years ago. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the heartland of this nation. I know watching these vote tallies on TV moves very slow, and as slow as it goes, it can be numbing. But never forget, the tallies aren't just numbers. They represent votes and voters, men and women who exercise their fundamental right to have their voice heard. And what's becoming clear each hour is that record number of Americans of all races, faiths, religions chose change over more of the same. They've given us a mandate for action on COVID, the economy, climate change, systemic racism. They made it clear they want the country to come together, not continue to pull apart. The people spoke, more than 74 million Americans, and they spoke loudly for our ticket. But while we're waiting for the final results, I want people to know we're not waiting to get the work done and start the process. Yep.
Good evening. I'd like to provide the American people with an update on our efforts to protect the integrity of our very important 2020 election. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. If you count the votes that came in late, we're looking at them very strongly, but a lot of votes came in late. I've already decisively won many critical states, including massive victories in Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Ohio. To name just a few, we won these and many other victories despite historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech. As everybody saw, we won by historic numbers. And the pollsters got it knowingly wrong. They got it knowingly wrong. We had polls that were so ridiculous, and everybody knew it at the time. There was no blue wave that they predicted. They thought there was going to be a big blue wave. That was false. That was done for suppression reasons. But instead, there was a big red wave. And it's been properly acknowledged, actually, by the media. They were, I think, very impressed. But that was after the fact. That doesn't do us any good. We kept the Senate despite having twice as many seats to defend as Democrats, and in a really much more competitive states, we did a fantastic job with the Senate. I think we're very proud of what's happened there. We had many more seats to defend. They spent almost $200 million on Senate races in South Carolina and Kentucky alone, 2 races, and hundreds of millions of dollars overall against us. At the national level, our opponents' major donors were Wall Street bankers and special interests. Our major donors were police officers, farmers, everyday citizens. Yet for the first time ever, we lost 0 races in the House. I was talking to Kevin McCarthy today. He said he couldn't believe it. 0 races. Very unusual thing, 0. And actually won many new seats with, I think, many more on the way. This was also the year of the Republican woman. More Republican women were elected to Congress than ever before. That's a great achievement. I won the largest share of non-white voters of any Republican in 60 years, including historic numbers of Latino, African American, Asian American, and Native American voters, the largest ever in our history. We grew our party by 4 million voters, the greatest turnout in Republican Party history. Democrats are the party of the big donors, the big media, the big tech, it seems, and Republicans have become the party of the American worker.
So that's U.S. President Donald Trump. Earlier you heard Biden there. He says he's winning. Trump says there are legal and illegal votes. We'll hear from my guests after this break on this issue. Don't go away.
know how we like best planet. My baby, oh you know.
Sunana Abdulrazak. Last week, I received a message from Bet Planet. Kamang now win golden ticket. Nadan je saya ma Mercedes Benz na. Wamba ku yadda kuma gashi nan ga suna na kai. Mun ga gora kaman gaskiya ne. Mun na sun ce na gode Bet Planet. Na gode mu kowa.
If you win, know how we like best planet. My baby, oh you know. If you win, know how we like best planet.
You've come a long way from where you started, and in that time, you've upgraded a lot. But have you upgraded your entertainment? When you upgrade to GoTV Max, everyone gets an upgrade. Football fans can up their game with La Liga and get all new action with the NBA and NFL on a brand new channel, ESPN. The kids will go crazy for the most popular kids shows, and family night is sorted with blockbuster movies on TNT. Plus, our local celebrities will keep you connected to your continent, while our general entertainment channels will take you international. There's a whole lot for the whole family when you upgrade to GoTV Max. So make the move today and give your family an upgrade they'll love. GoTV. Live it, love it.
You're welcome back to The Big Issue on Citi FM and Citi TV. My name is Abena. I'm here with Honorable Musaf Hussaini and Honorable Alexander Aban, and Franklin Kujo is connecting via Zoom. We'll now touch on the American elections before we take leave of you for today. Honorable Aban, did you have the slightest idea that this is how the election will pan? Right from voting day on Tuesday till today, and all the issues and allegations and the suits that are coming up?
Thank you. I think the signs were on the wall. Donald Trump should have himself to blame. It appears to me he is going to lose the election, but he must have himself to blame. He did not want any dissenting view, even within his own government. So if you realize, most probably in recent history, his government may be cited as the best example where we have high turnout of as a cabinet ministers, if I speak that way. People in his government, from defense secretary to almost everybody, once you stand in his way or once you challenge him, you go. Right? And there were people who would come to even reveal certain secrets and all that. Right? In the particular case of Arizona, it appears that his fallout with late Senator McCain played a huge role in the loss of that state. Because McCain is, or let me say was, a gargantuan figure, father figure for that state, right? So you touch McCain wrongly, you touch the whole of Arizona, right? Now, look at the fallout. It got so bitter that even in the death of McCain, Donald Trump would not step there. But how did it happen? It all has to do with McCain coming out and criticizing him on certain things, right? So that's what happened to him as far as Arizona is concerned. Now let us also look at his handling of COVID. Whilst we take credit here, he got a lot of bashing there because he, if I say, watered down the effect of, he didn't care. Meanwhile, millions of people were dying. And so his handling of COVID, his poor handling of COVID, is one of the reasons why he's losing. Because in America, it's almost certain that once you have had first term, if you are average, you are likely to get a second term. I mean, in recent history, we may only talk about Jimmy Carter. And even that one is because of the wars, and they said that he was weak and all that. But otherwise, they would have given him a second term. If you look at it, those who have just done one term and booted out, there are very few. And Trump is likely to suffer that fate. Places like Pennsylvania, I think he took Ohio. Places like Pennsylvania, he was leading. Now, these things that he is calling illegal votes, I'm surprised at him.
because it is part of their voting system, where you can do mail-in voting, what you call the absentee voting. You first do yours before you even, if you want to travel, you travel and all that, right? Because I have a few Ghanaians here, Ghanaian Americans, who told me they cast their vote even before coming. And they cast their vote much earlier than 3rd.
Yeah.
Right? So these are systems that they have run over many years. And then Georgia. These are traditionally, they would go red. But for some strange reason, they have turned red to blue. So if you look at it, where Biden had got to, with or without Pennsylvania, he was going to win anyway. But now it appears that he will even overshoot the 270. Right? I'm only praying that Donald Trump would just do the honorable thing by after the results have been declared by conceding defeat. In fact, if he goes ahead to concede defeat first, I'm sure they will declare it much faster. But you look at the analysis and you realize that as at now, almost 99% of almost all the key states have come in. And it doesn't look like he will be able to get enough numbers to upset the lead of Joe Biden. So let's wait and see. But the lighter side of it is those who are doing the comparisons here. I've seen some table in Ghana. I've seen some table in Ghana where they say, okay, 1992, 1998, Ghana, it was NDC, and the US, it was Democrats. Okay? Then 2000, 2004, we had MPP. In the US, it was Republican. 2008 to 2016, that 8-year period, we had Democrats. Okay? And then in Ghana, we had NDC. Now, 2016, we had Republican, right, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And then we had MPP here. So, but please, if that is your show banker, go and revise your notes, because as for this, NDC is going to lose. As far as Ghana is concerned, NDC is going to lose big time. Because you see, no, I'm inviting you, but wait. Because I've seen that. I've seen that being circulated around. Okay, don't live on any false hope. Please, you are going to lose.
We'll be wrapping up shortly.
Time.
I'll give you the last take. Okay. So you hold on. Let me go to Franklin.
Okay.
Franklin, what is happening to Trump?
Well, Trump was trumped by his foibles. I think he took on too many battles. He didn't do any of those unnecessary distractions. It is true that he was an unconventional candidate. He wasn't corrupt. He wasn't a corrupt politician. And he had come in the swamp. So, clearly speaking, in addition to the media, the left-wing media that mostly lies, in addition to the big guys who were clearly not interested in him making sure that they don't get a lot of the freebies and all kinds of deals. Then, in addition to all of those, were his own personal foibles, as I said, unnecessary. Like Honorable Aban said, what was the point in fighting Senator McCain so that you lose Arizona? The guy has done creditably well, but for COVID, the economy was going to be the greatest in the history of America. Even as we speak, 33% of GDP growth, it's no mean achievement. But the way he made comments about the COVID and the way, in actual fact, with COVID, even then, he helped a lot of the states to manage it quite well. The fact of the matter is his personal commentary and the unnecessary. So his persona was what was on call rather than the active forces. I mean, anybody who looks at Obamacare will realize that there's a socialized medicine. You can't seriously be wishing America a state, country, a federal state, what's it called? United States of America with different economic profiles to have a socialized medicine system, healthcare system, for instance. You cannot be thinking about building the economy and suggesting that you ban fracking, as Joe Biden has done. There was nothing economically useful that the Democrats were promoting. But for the fact that Trump himself caused his own downfall by the unnecessary commentary, by the unnecessary bickering, by the unnecessary distraction that he brought upon himself. So this election is a referendum on him. It was not a referendum on his economic prowess. And indeed, Trump became a force of nature, stood up to China that used to lie about its economic figures and all of it, stood up to them. Right? He made little pay at the bills. And he wants to learn anything about responsibility, taking responsibility. He didn't go to war. He didn't kill Gaddafi like Obama did. He didn't deport many people to their countries like Obama did. Then you don't hear any of these. All you hear is Trump's own foibles, and which has cost him this unnecessary loss. So he should be a big boy, put up his pants and just accept defeat, and probably come back if he wants. But I'm totally angry at him for
letting you down.
Because look, I've never believed in the left-wing type of politics because it's destructive. It's underdeveloped. Look at what they did to the blacks.
Okay. Let's Honorable Inusa have his take and then we'll wrap up.
You see, Aban,
you have less than
first
2
of all,
minutes.
Aban showed a table. and said that we shouldn't be living in the fool's paradise.
Yes.
The question is, which part of the table is wrong?
We are talking about the future. Okay, you are just being speculative. That issue will not guide us in any
Which part of the table is wrong?
I don't know which table.
There's a table circulating on social media. I'm sure Kojo will send that to you right now, Franklin.
but to be honest with you, Trump has leadership problems. And the Americans agree with Franklin. The election was a referendum on Trump and not on the Republican Party. Because in states which are red states, those states have maintained their governors, they have maintained their senators, but they voted against Trump. Because Trump was excessively partisan. He failed to unite the American people. The American people are more divided now than any time in history. Even when they were suppressing the blacks, they were not this divided. Now, in leadership, COVID, you cannot preside over COVID, and 200 million people, American people, will die, and you continue to deny the reality. What's 200,000. 200,000. And you continue to deny the reality. I mean, you can't do that. And then Hillary Clinton had written a book that in Trump government was a new reality.
Okay.
He gives his own figures and supports his own figures.
So you're wrapping up now, Honorable.
And I'm saying that the signs are clear. And you see, the Democrats, even though he doesn't believe in left-leaning parties, but the Democrats have taken the leadership of America, even in this crisis.
Yeah.
Look at the statements of Biden. They are presidential in nature. Look at the statements of the president.
Oh, he's been a vice president before.
No, but
so it's not surprising.
It's not surprising.
Okay,
but Trump just came from nowhere.
That's what time will allow us. Honorable Aban says the permutations will not necessarily repeat itself.
And I say, which one of it is wrong?
We'll see how that goes. December 7th is a month away. Thank you so much, gentlemen. You have the Honorable Inusa Hussaini, ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Tamale Central MP. Alexander Aban is also the Member of Parliament for Goma West. Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa. He joined us via Zoom. This has been the big issue on 97.3 Citi FM and Citi TV as well. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. On behalf of the team, we do appreciate you tuning in and being a part of this program. Keep listening to Citi FM and watching Citi TV. Goodbye. I like it so. Yeah,